and Ray wants to amend.
Yep, we have a motion.
I want it.
From Ray to amend. Can we get a, go ahead, sir?
Yeah, I would like to mention a approval for a new committee member for the long-range plan.
RLRPC.
They've already been vetted.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put
Through the
that
office.
on.
Through admin.
Yes.
We put that under new business, C.
So 7C LRPC appointment. Thank you, Ray. Can we get a second on the amended agenda?
Second.
All in favor of the amended agenda?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. All right, moving on to announcements. Do we have any announcements tonight? Yeah, no, we have one.
Board first.
Yeah, is there any announcements from the board? Hearing none? Okay.
Okay, Mr. President and ladies and gentlemen, with a heavy heart, I'm going to read this so I don't choke up here. But due to my wife's recently diagnosed health issues and the need for a hybrid work arrangement where I have to be off-site most Mondays and Fridays, I must reluctantly submit my resignation as your general manager of the Sun Valley Community Association effective December 5 of 2025. That'll be 10 days before my 1-year anniversary. This timing allows the board to utilize Prothman, the search company that hired down me, use their 1-year candidate placement guarantee, which will let them perform the search for you at no additional cost, except for travel and meeting expenses. So,
And advertising.
and advertising, yeah. I am willing to assist the association in transition by serving as an independent contractor or consultant to recruit, train, onboard a successor, or to continue as your general manager beyond December 5th under a hybrid work schedule until you find a suitable replacement. So I do have a formal letter of resignation that I will submit to the board in closed session.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any other announcements? All right, hearing none, we move on to property owner comments. We have 15 minutes total, 3 minutes per person. My timekeeper's not here tonight, so you might look out. So we have a hand up. I cannot see your face, but I saw the hand. That person is first over there. On the left, who is that? There, you're up.
I'm the only person on that side.
You got lucky.
I feel like a wedding.
Name and address, please.
Kevin Nesbitt, 46 Louise Drive. So, it may surprise some of you to learn that Sun Valley has a planning process. It's transparent, thoughtful, and well-developed, and it's called the Community Plan Process Guide. And among other things, it calls for the coordination with the county and other governing agencies to ensure compliance with their requirements and continuity with their plans and goals, while ensuring consistency with our own community goals. 2, calls for the collaborative process that encourages Sun Valley membership to participate in the planning process. 3, requires identifying and maintaining funding sources for all projects for the life of the projects. And 4, requires that we administer regular surveys, conduct focus groups, and use other tools to get community input. In other words, it calls for a collection of data because planning decisions should be data-driven. And these are just some of the more salient components of the process for purpose of this discussion. It's actually, the planning document is much more detailed and encompassing. It's several pages long. Contrast that with our LRPC approach. Members sit around the table and advocate for, and spitball, advocate for pet projects, or I'm not sure, but I do know that there's absolutely no data or community feedback. Instead of conducting surveys, they tell communities to send emails, none of which are publicly discussed. This is not soliciting community input. This, at best, is a disingenuous shortcut. And adding insult to injury, a lot of times the town hall meetings aren't announced with enough meaningful advance notice. And I just found out, I didn't see anything yesterday 2 hours beforehand, but that might just be me, but I looked. And just to be unequivocally clear, what I mean by data is not simply claiming loudly and with conviction, people want this or people need that. Data is not simply repeating something with hope that people will eventually accept it as fact. Data is not conversations with neighbors and friends, and data is not people expressing their opinions at a festival booth. Our planning process is nothing more than a squeaky wheel gets the grease. Planning decisions should not be based on anecdotes, speculation, or conjecture. Some examples, for example, one LRPC member is hell-bent on commercializing Sun Valley, beginning with Area Y. Wants to sacrifice our beautiful environment for some build-out that's guaranteed to siphon more money from the community. Member also wants to embark on protracted multi-year tree removal campaign. Apparently, this forest is an annoyance. Wants to call for paving large areas for building storage units and RV storage. This is tone deaf. If you read our last community survey, the results are very clear. The main reason people live here is because of our forest environments. They don't want to cut down trees. The county certainly doesn't, because it's the most effective and cost-effective means of reducing phosphorus in the.
You're at 4 minutes, sir.
Okay. Another community idea is bicycle pump track right next to the swimming pool. I bet if we cared to ask, we'd find that people swimming laps for health don't want to breathe dust, and parents who take their children to the pool don't want them breathing asthma-inducing dust laden with toxins and heavy metals. This is also tone deaf. I mean, we just spend a lot of time, people are complaining loudly that there are too many non-residents impacting and reducing enjoyment in our facilities. In fact, we just launched a, well-intended but ill-conceived and poorly implemented sticker program. So why are we bringing more people in things like pump tracks? And this is my last point. Finally, we have a big proposal, an $8.5 million indoor basketball/wedding venue that the community had no say in. Again, people flooding into Sudden Valley. Where is the data that supports this project? Where is the data? Personally, I'm not opposed to using Barn 6 footprint, but let's hear what the community wants and needs. Actually, we have heard in previous surveys, so let's start listening. And during a previous presentation, it was confidently stated that the $8.5 million structure would only cost every household $13 per month for 20 years. I'd like to see how this number was derived. And I'm not talking about the inevitable cost overruns or the material cost increases resulting from, say, new tariffs. I'd like to see exactly how the number was calculated, because it seems implausible.
6 minutes, sir.
Yeah, you're.
Okay.
6 minutes,
Okay.
sir.
Well, okay, I'll just leave this. I'll ask the community.
Please submit this. You obviously have it in writing.
I have notes, I have sloppy notes.
Oh, okay. Please
Yeah.
submit it in writing for.
Okay, so I'll ask the board this, 3 things. Stop ignoring the community, collect data, and follow the planning process. We have one, it's good. I think we help with that, right? Show how estimated costs and fee increases are derived from projects. For example, the $13 per month per household figure. And announce town hall meetings with adequate time for meaningful member participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
So, my name is Kathleen Laughlin. My husband Bill and I have lived in Sun Valley at 10 Alden Court for over 25 years, and we love it out here. I want to thank the board for allowing us the opportunity to share our thoughts and ideas regarding the proposed water usage issue with the community gardens. This is a great community, and we have many wonderful activities, including our community gardens for residents. We use our community garden to supplement our grocery bill because we're on a fixed income. While it is my understanding that the garden near the dance barn draws water from Lake Whatcom, there is obviously a pump and electricity cost as well as maintenance costs associated with this system. If the board decides to charge the Area Z garden for water usage, I urge the board to please consider installing meters at both gardens for electricity usage and water used, and charge each garden for those costs so it's equal for both gardens. I hope you will consider not charging a water fee for either garden and consider the community gardens a benefit of living in beautiful Sudden Valley, just like all the other benefits that we don't pay a use fee for, such as tennis courts, pickleball, ping pong, fitness center, etc. I want to thank you for your time, and I do hope you will take this seriously as a consideration.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah.
Ann Riley, 39 Green Hill. I'm gonna try to time myself too. So I also want to speak about the water issue for the Area Z garden. I have a question for the board. I would like to know if the association has ever billed Area Z garden for the water usage? And if you have, what was the amount per season?
To my knowledge, there's never been a bill.
Thank you. So the association has recognized the community garden as a valuable recreational space for the community. There are many spaces that are supported, and the community gardens should be one of them. The association supports parks and playgrounds, pools, community center, marina, and even the golf in lean years, including the garden's water usage as one of those common association fees costs for the garden is reasonable. The water bill is small in comparison to upkeep of these other amenities for which usage fees are not charged. It's unfair that the Barnview Community Garden has water supply for free. They are not being asked to contribute to the repairs and maintenance of the system. Currently, the slide gate repair is costing $50,000 estimate. If the association votes to charge the garden for water, the waiting list for the Barnview Community Garden is about to grow very long. As I previously stated at the board's June 26th meeting, I want to reiterate that the gardeners spend a lot more money than just the annual fee for $40. There are costs such as rebuilding rotting raised beds, purchasing soil and soil amenities, personal tools, and purchasing seed and starts. The $40 fee is used for the garden maintenance and infrastructure needs, including perimeter fencing and gates, shed, tools, hoses, etc. The current manager has repeatedly said these fees are barely enough emergencies. So if the board truly believes the community are communities.
Anyone else? But I can't see you over the podium.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Andrea Davidson, 28 Granite Circle. I am the current manager for the Area Z Community Garden. I'm here because we are at an impasse and not able to sign our 5-year lease because we're not able to come to a codified terms about the bill for water going forward. The lease is for a term of 5 years. This year, the general manager, Michael, let us know that we are going to start receiving a bill. As you guys know, in that email, that exchange that went back and forth, the original estimate was $3,000.
My bad.
I understand, but that was still the initial thing that was given to us, almost as if it was not up for debate, okay? And so our current hard-fought dues are at $40. And the city of Bellingham is at $50, and the city of Bellingham covers water, mulch, soil, removal of all compost, and tools. Right now, our dues cover trash removal, soil, compost, ongoing infrastructure needs, replacing the hoses, and occasionally we like to have a potluck because we're a club. It is with great honor that I talk to you on behalf of this amazing community. Most of these people just want to pay their $40 and grow tomatoes, right? They're not here to have arguments about the water bill. I know that when I personally became a Sudden Valley resident, We chose Sudden Valley over Glen Haven because there was a community garden. And we immediately, right now, we have 37 people on the wait list at Area Z. There are over 50 for Barnview. We have asked for expansion, but what has paused us completely in our tracks is the inability to renew our 5-year lease term. As a volunteer, I don't have the ability to keep negotiating every single year new lease terms. And so where we're currently at this impasse is an email that says the board may in the future update the lease at will to start charging us for water based on the new monitor that was put in place at the Sudden Valley Association's expense. I cannot, in good faith and on behalf of the 40 gardeners who have voted to reject those terms, sign the lease, but we also need to sign the lease. So I need the board to codify into the lease that the Sudden Valley Area Z Community Garden is an amenity as it is listed on their website as such, and that the club who maintains and are good stewards of that area will not incur a special use fee for water for their community garden. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Jane David, 10 Gooseberry Circle. Sorry, I already talked last night, but I'm here for the short term, I don't think so. I just figured I would make one last comment. And the horse might be out of the barn already on this one, but I would just like to ask the board to consider our amenities as a greater whole, rather than piecemealing a coffee shop going into the clubhouse that's going to require renovations. The existing other clubhouse spaces that aren't being used, the welcome center that's being used for the staff. There are ways to rejigger things that make more sense. One of which is the community would like to use the welcome center. We would love to have that be an available place. We would love to have some sort of coffee stand in there. I think that there may have been discussion of that previous to Michael Bennett coming on board, but there's too much of the like, well, we got the space here, let's just put this thing in it. And we only have one person who's even, I think, put a proposal in, or maybe two. So I would just ask to think about that. What could the Welcome Center be used for? We need a space for meetings. We could be using the Welcome Center. We need a place for a coffee shop. Maybe that could be the Welcome Center. We can move the staff back into the clubhouse. I don't believe that if it was renovated, it's some horrendous place to work. I worked in a closet at one place, a little room that used to be a closet. It had no impact on me because my job was fulfilling and I got paid well and I had good benefits, and that's not my focus of my job, is to have a view of the lake. That's pretty much it. Just try to think, I wish you would just think bigger scale than just like little individual bits and pieces. Thank you. And also thank you to Michael Bennett for your time, sir. Obviously, it sounds like a mistake was made with the garden, but mistakes are going to be made when someone comes into a new job, so.
I have a great garden in Ellensburg if you guys want to come by.
Thank you.
3 acres.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else?
I wasn't going to say anything, but now with all of this, so Barbara Michelson Harder, 172 Polo Park. I just want to clarify something, because now it sounds like there is or there might be charge for water at the garden. Because I remember being at a meeting when somebody said, oh, you put a meter in, is that going to be to charge us for water? And the board said, oh no, that's not going to be to charge you for water. We just want to get an idea of how much water is being used. So I just want to clarify that, because I don't have a space at the garden. I haven't really been paying attention, but
I don't recall a meeting that was actually discussed, but the sub-meter was put in to get an idea of how much water is being used there before we could even approach the board and say, are we paying for it, are we not paying for it? Because Michael's original estimate was eye-opening to me. It's way less than that, now we know that. But we want to do it for a couple more months to get an actual idea of the amount of water being used. So nothing has been done yet, and nothing isn't planned on being done until we gather that information.
okay, so, but then looming, like this woman said, over everybody's head is the possibility that maybe you don't have to pay for water?
That's very possible. We don't know at this time. That is correct.
For
Can I ask a question?
2025.
Not for 2025, we're not any retro, there was also a misconception we're going retroactive and all, that was never the case either. A lot of things get carried away on Facebook and then people just run with it, wasn't how this went down at all, so. A lot of thought has gone into that, as well as where to put places and people, so.
Okay, well, all right, I'll think about more comments about that.
Okay.
May I ask a question? So,
Technically, we're not supposed to be doing a question and answer session, but go ahead, real quick.
okay, so my understanding is that the board is saying that it's okay for this garden down here to draw water out of Lake Whatcom with no charge, yet Area Z is gonna be charged.
Well, the way it is currently, so we're trying to determine that, and Michael is gonna, we shouldn't be having a discussion here, it's a board meeting, but Michael is trying to determine right now, the original setup of that barn, of your Area Z garden, something was mentioned about getting county approval from the water district. The only thing we could think, because you certainly don't need county approval to run a hose from our water spigot that runs through a meter to your garden. You don't need approval from the county, so we were thinking it's possible that whoever started that garden originally went to the county and was trying to get approval to draw water from the stream or the creek there, right? That's what we were thinking, and that's the same place we get ours, because the golf course is watered with Lake Louise water. So we were thinking that could have been the possibility. That's the only reason why you guys would have needed county approval for that. So we don't know the answer to that right now, and if currently now that would almost be impossible to do, but back then, maybe someone said, yep, you could have did it. I do not know, and we don't know, so we are trying to find that information. Because that would be wonderful, that would solve all problems. So to answer that, I hope a little bit, it's kind of, yeah, I know, we're still trying to figure it out. That's why there's no rush to do anything, because we really don't know ourselves, so we're trying to get all the information we can.
So, I'm sorry, but what does that mean for signing the 5-year term lease?
That was just like the email said, either you have to sign that lease right now, the way it was given to you, or you wait us out till we get our information. So it'll be another 2 or 3 months probably before we're actually ready to present something to the board and then back to you with that.
So in the interim, we're just not,
Well, you're at the end of your growing season anyway, so, you know,
it's a year-round garden.
Yeah.
well,
It's a year-round.
okay, to a certain extent. I'm a garden, a barn view garden guy, so I have a plot over there. So I kind of know how it works, but it's not a huge demand. So you're just gonna have to be patient, is all I can say. Sorry, but we need the information to present to the board properly before we can make any decisions.
So is there a way for us to say that we can reassess this after the holidays in January, and until then, we're just not gonna sign the lease, but nothing will,
That's,
like an interim lease that says we're going to address this, and there's a stay of no bill until we can reassess and,
there will be no bill, I guarantee you, for 2025. I promise you that, yeah.
but I can't sign a lease that sets the terms of my dues for my.
Well, because you were adamant about wanting a lease set for 5 years that said you would never be billed for water, and we cannot do that right now. I cannot give you a 5-year guarantee that we'll
Right.
never do that right now. But maybe in January, yes, maybe in December we can. We don't know right now.
Well,
Okay, we have to keep moving with we have a board meeting tonight.
AJ, 2 Cedar Place,
Yeah, we know who you are.
it's on the record, so. I think a simple solution to it would be to just put it on the agenda for the board to discuss the proposal, what they've said. Does the board believe that we should charge them for the water?
Okay.
We don't need the data if the whole board agrees, we don't need to charge them for the water.
Well, we do need the data.
This is my comment period time and.
Well, I'm gonna give you an answer right now, AJ.
No, I
It will not come to
I don't want your answer, it's not a question.
It's certified.
I'm making a statement, this
All right,
is
hurry
my
up.
time,
You got 3 minutes, move it.
this is my time.
Fine.
It's pretty simple, just, they're in limbo because you won't put it on the agenda for the board to actually discuss it. It's just sitting here in limbo, so, I don't know, it's painful to watch the process play out.
It was on 2 previous agendas, AJ, and I apologize you weren't there for those meetings.
I mean, we can have a discussion, the board's so the board stance, I guess I missed those meetings, the board's
Yes,
stance
yeah.
then is that they're unwilling to just cover the amenities water?
The question,
That was-
now you want an answer? So now you're asking a question. So you make up your mind, either you make a statement or you want an answer.
Well, either way, I support the water being supported by the
I think we
community.
all
That's my
support it,
stance.
but we need to know what that
So I don't think it
is.
needs to be played out this way, and then I'm just going to second what the first gentleman said, Kevin, is that what it is, and Jane, regardless of the animosity towards me, there was a planning process, there is a planning process, use it.
Thank you. Anyone else tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Okay, item number 4, we have consent agenda for approval meeting minutes of August 6, 2025, and approval of the meeting minutes for August 14, 2025. Motion?
I would make a motion, Mr. President, to have those minutes from August 6, 2025 and August 14th, 2025 approved as submitted. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. All in favor? That's unanimous. Spencer, we still have no one on Zoom, right? Okay. All right, moving on to item number 5, we have reports. We have the GM report, we'll find on page 6. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. President. August and September, hey, here we are, summer's winding down, Labor Day's here, unbelievably quick. The recreation staff and pool monitors and so forth are gearing down, of course. We had a real successful Valley Fair, it was excellent, and our next milestone coming up is Trunk or Treat. That'll be a nice fall get-together. The main pool, of course, is closing on September 2nd. We had our team pool party yesterday, and unfortunately I was suffering food poisoning and couldn't be there. But I heard that Chipotle was good, and the team had a great time at the pool. Nobody got dunked. Turf care, the major irrigation mainline repairs were completed on hole 5 and 12. They did verticutting, overseeding, and top dressing. You may have seen the paving machines out there at Turf Care. The paving, in fact, one of them's out here in the parking lot. That's to finish up some of the cart paths down here. So the paving project's just about complete. They're getting ready to ramp up for the Turf Care building remodel that the board approved comes from the SERF budget. Maintenance and facilities, you may have noticed on Marigold there, the striping on the crosswalk is in. And there was a lot of noodling on how to lay those out. So if you look at it, if you're coming from one direction, it looks logical. If you're coming from the other, it doesn't. But if you walk through the crosswalk, you'll see why they laid it out that way. But I've already had some good comments from people, because it definitely improves the safety there, especially now that we've got dusk coming in. It's pretty dark down there, it's like Sleepy Hollow at night. You can see the headless horseman go galloping through there, coming up Lake Louise Trail. Anyway, I'd love to read the whole thing. In fact, you know I love to talk, but I would ask the board to stipulate for the remainder, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask just a quick
You
question?
can, Rob.
Thanks. Michael, is there any, I'm not sure if anybody's communicated to it, is there any possibility of leaving the quiet pool open if we have good weather permitting, a little bit beyond the 2nd?
I think we discussed that this morning, Spencer, you recall that, and isn't there a temperature, once we have a day or two where the temperatures drop into the 40s is when we shut things down, maybe from an energy point of view, and
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Kyle can give you the definitive answer, but if you've got some, people who are willing to swim in water that's in the 40s, we'll certainly look at it. I know there's been a policy though to when the temperatures get down into the 40s at night, it becomes, those heaters are working their hearts out.
Yeah, we don't want to add expense, just if the weather's good. The other, I just want to thank Mike Brock's team. We're putting some fill right when you go into the quiet pool. There was a little bit of a lip off the concrete. Those guys were like right on it to fill that in. So please let Mike know how much we're was appreciated.
And Rob, we haven't let the sidewalk idea go yet. It's just the county permitting on it is so onerous.
No, I know, thanks to the team for doing that.
You got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, go to financial statements review. Joel?
Okay.
We brought a magnifying glass.
I accidentally signed myself out, so I'm signing back in.
Spencer, still no one on Zoom?
Just us.
Hey Keith, while he's getting ready, just a quick question back on maintenance. The sewer overflow at the turf care building, is that a tree root problem? Or,
Gosh, I don't know, Tom. I'd have to dig into that to find out.
yeah, because I'm familiar where the manhole cover is, and that's where they wash down the mowers, and there's a lot of cut grass that gets washed down in that area.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I can sure find out. If you just remind me, I'll make a note of it and get a hold of Greg.
And be the one that we have to come out and clear it.
Yeah.
All right, Joel?
That's what I'm saying, we know the answer.
Okay, so I'm gonna cover it. So the last financial statements that I presented, it was the April financial statements, so I believe in your agenda you have both May and June, or was it just June?
Just June. Yeah, June.
Okay, just June.
June starts on.
June is most relevant, I guess we'll just cover June. But both May and June, they're both on the website, so anyone can go to the website and pull full statements of both May and June if you want to. So we'll go ahead and start off with the balance sheet here. The one item, so this is the one item right here that really the real material thing to mention on the balance sheet. What's been, so you see the line item that I highlighted that's called estimated contingent DPP loan liability for $357,700. Of course, now this is backing up a few years ago. I did mention in board meetings before that this could always be a possibility where so this is where back in 2020, March, I believe 2020, down below, by the way, so this last footnote also explains what this item is, but so in May of 2020, that's when we applied for the PPP loan and got it $357,700. So we're given by the Small Business Administration in September of 2021. And, but now, 2-3 years ago, back when we were dealing with this PPP loan liability, of course, back then I said this could always be a case that could happen, and it has happened where essentially the government has reached out to us and they want these funds back. And this is, now how this happened was basically we're a 501c4. So back then when we applied for this back in May of 2020, at that point there's pending legislation, everything had switched around, and on the SBA website itself, it said that all nonprofits at that point were potentially eligible to get these funds. Then looking into it, 501c6s, 501c7s, like all sorts of different 501c corporations beyond 501c3s applied for it and received all these funds. We had to work through a bank. So the bank has to facilitate this borrowing. So we worked through that bank. And the bank, even though we were a 501c4, felt that yes, that we should definitely apply for these funds to get them before, at that time, it's like the funds were being burned through rapidly at the federal level in terms of like tranches of money. So we applied for them, we got them, and then fast forward to, it's actually April of this year, 2025, that's when the government reached out to us and said, unfortunately, we have to return these funds. Now, the good silver lining to this whole thing is other organizations, other 501c4s, for example, they're not just being asked to return the funds, they're being asked to return the funds times 2. So the penalty is whatever they got, but then doubled. But our case, like they told, is the Department of Justice actually goes through and does all of these, looks into all these PPP loans. But the good thing for us is, like they told us, the bottom line is, like, I really went out of my way to make sure that the bank properly disclosed that we were a 501c4 organization, and like they said, because of that, Sun Valley is actually in a unique position to where they're not asking for any fees or penalties whatsoever. And they're even, so they have to kick this back to the SBA with their recommendations, but what they're also putting in for us to have a payment or a repayback period of up to 5 years at a 0% interest rate. So I guess the one good thing is kind of, if you think about it, back when we got this, which is roughly, we're going on about 5 years from now, if we started paying this back today, by the time it was all paid back, it'd be 10 years. So it'd be, so we got this money for 10 years, and we got to borrow it for nothing, for a 0% interest rate. So that is the one good thing about this. However, we haven't, this is sitting now with the SBA. Of course, as you know how the government works, it's in the government queue. For all we know, this could be quite a while before we hear back from them. So in terms of any sort of repayments on this, it's nothing on the foreseeable horizon.
And Joe, I think it's important to point out that the U.S. attorney that you've been in contact with is the one who's given us the assurance there's no criminal intent and there's no penalties or interest that we have incurred.
Oh, that's correct. Yes. So this is just, as you pointed out, this is just a flat civil type situation. This isn't a criminal thing, it's just a civil thing. And it's the fact that we, since like he said, since we did our due diligence, like properly disclosing that we were a 501c4, that's why they're not asking for any fees or penalties whatsoever. They're just looking for a repayment, and especially in our favorable situation, like I said, he's putting in for us to have a 5-year repayment terms at 0 interest.
And I want to compliment Joel on the way he documented this back when the funds were distributed, because your documentation is what swayed the U.S. attorney.
Oh, yeah.
I want that to be known. He did a great job of documenting it.
Yeah, actually, in terms of, like I said, a bank has to facilitate this. So we ourselves could not just apply for these funds. You have to work through a bank who's a facilitator of these funds. And so I actually insisted for the bank. So basically, there's even like a stamped kind of, like a marking on the very front page of the loan document itself. Right at the top page, it says, note we are a 501c4 organization. So it's definitely, in terms of us disclosing who we were, there's no question whatsoever about that. But like I said, even like I told Keith and Rick and stuff, it's like when you think back on it, if not that we planned it to go this way, but if there was some program where they said, hey, you can apply for these funds like a loan, but you don't have to pay them back for 10 years at 0% interest, I'm sure a person would do something like that anyways. Okay, so we'll move on to the, like I said, we didn't intend for it to go that way. We were hoping this would just be forgiven and just stay like that, but at least when this finally rolls around to our file, so to speak, and like I said, who knows, it could be quite a long time with the way the government works. At that point, we'll have a 5-year repayment term at 0% interest. Okay, so moving basically to the bottom line of this, so we're looking, like I said, we're covering June 30, 2025 is year to date, so you're looking at the first half year of 2025. We'll just skip right to the net income. You can see, so the net income for Sun Valley is $156,992. In comparison, So I'm comparing these now to June of 2024. So June of 2024 is 467,648. You can see that so we're under budget by about 100,000. Last year, we were over budget by about 200,000. Of course, from year to year, we fine tune this budgeting and what we feel will come in at what times. There are certain things that, like for example, contracted professional services, you can see this whole bucket is over by close to 35,000, and that's mainly related to the HR consultant that the admin office is using. When we signed the contract for this consultant, this was after last year's budget period had concluded, so it just flat out wasn't on the budget since this was done, and so the contract signed, I think it was December possibly when that thing was signed, so basically you have an expense arriving on the income statement with no corresponding budget, so that's why that is. Like for example, this bucket, CCR mandates, you'll see this whole bucket of expenses is over by about 74,000, and that's related to over budget spending on legal for approximately 80,000. And then this one will come as no surprise, regulatory compliance. This is over budget by about 80,000, and that's hazardous tree removal. But all of those over budget amounts, that's what's really contributing to that $100,000 over budget for the year. And you can see our collection rate is at 97.3%. The collection rate at the end of July 2024 was 97.47%, so we're really right in the ballpark of where we were last year at this time. I have the collection rate so the collection rate for July of 2025 is 97.33%. Collection rate for July 2024 is 97. Oh, actually, I already covered those two. But the good thing with the collection rate, like I said, we have a 95% collection rate. That's what we budgeted for. And we budgeted for that in 2025. It's also on the budget for 2026, the proposed budget right now. And I've shared this before, but I'll just go over it again real quickly. So what this means is since we budget for a 95% collection rate, let's just say, just to keep this simple, at the end of the year, we come in at 96% collection rate. So we're basically 1% over what we said. So that would mean operations would have an additional 28,561. SURF would have an additional 14,463. Roads an additional 14,875. Mailbox an additional 266. So those, when I say additional, that's all revenue that's coming in that's over and beyond what we budgeted, which obviously that's a good thing. That's what we want. Now I do, of course, I'll just share these numbers because I think Linda likes hearing these, but so from month to month, I give you what's called an expense to revenue ratio, which just basically gives you a ratio of expenses to revenues. You can think about it in terms of for every, like for example, at the end of June of 2025, it was 93.9%. That just means at the end of June, for every dollar of revenues, we had close to 94 cents in expenditures. That's what that means. In this case, lower is obviously better. June of 2025 is 93.9%. June of 2024 is 81.5%. We expect that since I already shared that the net income at the end of June 2024 was higher, 467,000. That's what would make that ratio. Last May 2025 is 92.7%. Okay, so this page we're looking at our reserve cash balance. So this is covering all capital reserves and operating reserves, emergency ops, and UDR. And SURF, I'll just hit on SURF, and the rest is the same sort of model. But obviously this starts off with basically the balance sheet cash at the end of 12/31/2024, $3,172,197. If you went back to the balance sheet, looked at the cash balance for SURF at the end of 2024, December, you would see that number. And then you have the dues received coming in, the cash coming in for dues, which includes all dues. What I mean by that is 2025 SURF dues, and 2024 and before year dues like recoveries as well. Then interest income, some sale of assets, $1,200, close to $349,000 of 2025 expenditures. That means all checks that were cut that went out the door to pay for all board approved capital projects, loan payments, so on and so forth. And then down below here, we have our 6-month outlook. So this just means for the remainder of the year, July through December, at a 95% collection rate, then we would expect to receive close to $87,000 in dues. That would be higher if the collection rate was over that. And, historically, so the collection rate, for example, at the end of December of 2024, for the full year is 97.95%. December of 2023 is 97.93%. So you can see 2024, 97.95, 2023, 97.93. 2022 is 97.6%. So our collection rate, the good thing, tends to be on the high side by the end of the year. But then we get these obligated expenses. This is one of the largest numbers on here. You'll see it's $1,076,000. So I'm turning to the capital project report that is in the agenda packet too. So you can see for SURF, there's that $1,076,000 balance right here. And this is showing you all the capital projects that the board has approved.
Page 15.
All the capital projects that the board has approved and are open, that we're still going to use. Some of these I've marked closed since they're obviously closed, like sand trap rate, like a one-off piece of equipment that we paid for. So this shows you all the board approved amounts. And like I said before, I said this at the town hall budget meeting, but the handy thing about this is this second column, approval date. If you're wondering, like, what is this thing? What is this turf care building remodel? Well, you could just, the approval date is May 22nd, 2025. If you went to the May 22nd, 2025 agenda packet, you will see that approval or that project request memo on there in the backup right in that packet. You will see that for every single one of these. So it's the total board approved amount, total invoice, and like for example, turf care building remodel, you can see the board approved close to $117,000 for that. Nothing's been invoiced, so that's why we're obligating $117,000, which is assuming all of that will be spent. And then we have this net usable cash. So this is obviously taking into account all those obligated expenses from all the open projects, $3,006,000. Board recommended carryover, that's $600,000. That just means the amount the board would not like to drop below, and that gives you a net usable cash balance at the end of 2024. Or 2020, at the end of December 31, 2025, at the end of this year, 2.4 million. And it's the same drill for roads and UDR. But you can see roads is sitting at about 1.5 million. Mailbox, 178,000. We don't have any expenditures coming out of this. Emergency ops, 364,000. UDR, 275,000. But the big funds like SURF, roads, and UDR, like these three funds, specifically these are the funds of the board, they have to approve expenditures to come out of these funds. And I've said this before, I'll just say it real quickly again. UDR is for past dues, like for example, any dues from December 2024 and before, any dues before 2025. When people fall behind on dues and then they pay these dues, the operating portion of that dues goes into this UDR account. And then it becomes at the board's discretion to spend it on what needs to be spent for the association. Okay, this next page, we're just going to cover the next couple of pages. That's it. This page I'm going to skip right over, but this is showing you the current, this is the June 1 through June 30 income. We're just going to go to the next page. It's the exact same page. It's just showing you the year to date, January through June 2025. And this just shows you every single department and there's that $156,992. It just shows you how the departments contributed to make up that $156,992 operating income. And so I'll look at golf real quick, since we always usually talk about golf. Okay, so you can see that golf year-to-date, January through the end of June, $695,731 in revenues. At the end of June of 2024, year over year, it was $709,555, so they're down by about $14,000. In July, they closed that gap to about $9,000 in terms of revenues. So, but the bottom line is they're real close year over year in terms of revenues. Expenditures for golf, which is this payroll expenditures, actual salary benefits, that's payroll, medical benefits, payroll taxes. And then all other expenses right here, $291,416. Those two added together come up to $673,218. Last year at the end of June 2024, $590,803. So the expenses are up by $82,415. Obviously that's expected with the increase of, say, like salaries and supplies and sand and so on and so forth. But so golf has a $22,513 net income, operating net income at the end of June. At the end of June of 2024, it was $118,752. Marina, we can touch on this real quickly. So Marina, you can see revenues of $231,560. At the end of June of 2024, it was $235,254, so pretty close. And we'll just go to the net income. So net income, $217,042. Net income at the end of June of 2024, $225,726. So very close to what transpired last year at the end of June of 2024. But I think for the most part, that covers the major highlights of these financial statements.
A real quick question, Joel. You said the golf income was down 100,000, but on the charter it says 18,000.
Which chart? Oh,
For the golf.
yeah, this is the budget. So it's in terms of what it was budgeted to do at the end of June, it's
Okay,
18,500 below budget.
looks close to better.
Yeah,
So-
close to budget.
So we're looking at net income in June, it's September, so it could be as we get further
Yeah.
in the reporting period, things could be a lot better.
Yeah, because at the end of, like I said, at the end of July, they closed that, in terms of the total revenues, instead of like around 14,000, they closed the gap a little to like, I believe around 9,000. So, but yeah, in like subsequent months, like August and September, yeah.
Right.
But last year, in terms of revenue-wise, I believe that was one of their, if not their best year, and better than the year before, and so on, so. And especially like, someone pointed out in Finance Committee meeting, like in terms of what's going on with, like Canadians, golf is doing pretty well, given that at this point.
Any other
Joel,
questions? Go ahead, Lynn.
So Joel, just with golf, do we know what's causing? It's just, it's a really large variance, the 53,000 over in expenses, like everything else seems to be running, like I would expect maybe the payroll, but do we know, is it coming out of, it's the golf enterprises, is it turf care?
Yeah, so it's golf and turf.
Is it turf that's,
Yes, so like raw materials, sand and things like that have been up. But like, for example, even though this does say that they're over budget by 53,000, this can also be a timing thing from year to year. So like, he could buy a whole bunch of sand, say like 1 month, and then the next year it could change. So then, but from year to year, when we do the budget spread in the budget module, we'll take a look at the past year and how expenses started hitting. And then we'll model, 2025 a little more tightly than 2024, but if he starts changing the timing when he buys big quantities of sand or whatever, that could temporarily throw it off.
okay.
sand, seed, fertilizer,
Yeah.
compost,
Oh, yeah.
fuel is another big one this year.
Sure.
It's just sometimes, especially buying sand and stuff, that can be adjusted. You know, and that's namely the big ticket item for the
Yeah.
golf course. It used to be actually capitalized until they no longer let us do that.
It's a short, useful life.
Yes, yep.
Any additional questions for Joel?
I have one question.
Yes,
I
sir.
was in the bathroom. I just want to confirm what I came in. So we have to repay the PPP loan that was taken out?
Yes, we did.
So we took out a loan when our revenues didn't change at all, hoping you'd be forgiven, and now we have to pay it back, the loan that was made for staff payroll, even though. Wow.
But I don't know if you remember, do you remember what those loan funds were used for?
Well, they say they have to be used for utilities and payroll.
No, meaning at the time when we did this, it was, when it was forgiven, so then it came onto our income statement as a basically debt extinguishment, which created an operating surplus in the year that was forgiven.
Yeah.
In 2021. So what I'm saying is like, when the debt when we take it out, like in the year in which it was actually forgiven, like that's when it hits our income statement as a gain, so to speak, which in 2021, those funds created a gain. That's what contributed to like over $500,000.
I understand all that. What I'm saying is the program was for businesses to cover payroll expenses for lost revenues. We didn't lose revenue because we're an HOA and our dues collection rates stayed about the same. We took that money and now we have to repay it back. Should have never taken that money.
No, when we took the funds, it was for payroll. So like when we took the funds, we had to give them all sorts of payroll information. When it was forgiven.
Yes, what I'm saying is our revenues did not drop. We didn't lose revenues. Businesses actually lost revenue during COVID, which is what that money was for. Is to give businesses basically free revenue to cover payroll expenses for the money they were not getting because their businesses were shut down.
Were we golfing that year at all? That's one of our.
No, actually golf was shut down for
A month. Wasn't it?
It was long.
And golf was shut down for like 1 month or 2 months.
You couldn't even gather in parks.
It was more like 3 months.
3 months.
Washington, yeah.
You know, we still paid all of our staff when they worked remotely from home and the costs with that.
I understand we still had costs. I'm saying our revenues largely were not that impacted to the point where now we have to pay back $300,000.
Well, we spent 500,000 of it, so.
That was the year that we had the lowest collection rate in a while. But the thing is, I mean, like, when these funds were both applied for and forgiven, we had to supply all sorts of payroll type information. So everything that we did, in terms of like complying, adhering to the rules of the PPP loan application process, if you ignore let's just say we weren't a 501c4, we were a 501c3 or whatever.
My position is I was against doing this loan in the first place, and it got done basically with no board discussion at the time. It was just taken out. So I'm not looking for a discussion or justifications, I understand it all. I'm just saying it should have never happened.
Well, when the funds were forgiven, that was about, like I said, it was in 2021, it generated $500,000 worth of surplus in that year.
Yeah, but now they're not forgiven. So that's
Well, then maybe we shouldn't
all
have put the
I'm
funds into the Welcome Center,
saying.
because that's where it went.
Exactly.
Did we realize that?
It's okay. That's okay.
All right,
Nobody got indicted
any other
criminally.
questions?
I'm not going to usual.
All right, moving on. Got C, committee task force updates. So we'll start out with architecture control. Daniel?
Really nothing new to report. We're back on the regular schedule after we missed a meeting or two. We had it condensed into one, but now we're on our regular schedule again, and I think we've got about 14 items on our agenda for next Thursday.
Still up there though, that's good. Medium, rank 14, moving on to that. Excellent.
Not too bad.
All right, thank you. Moving on to document review.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Linda. Finance Committee, Mr. Asai.
Yes, so we met recently, and I'll have more to say during the budget discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll just save it for them.
All right, very good, thank you, sir. Long Range Planning Committee.
Well, Rick and I and the community, we had a town meeting last night, and those are always fun. Great to see the community out, got some great people that live here. We talked about the Barn 6 8.4 proposal and how that was no longer even in the plan at all, so that is no longer on the board. We did propose a pavilion, an enclosed pavilion, for $3 million with no assessment. And then we had almost a good hour of questions and answers and comments and opinions. And we had some good stuff. We're always gonna get a variety of different stuff. The last time that we did that, got us to pavilion that we proposed last night from being at the 8.4 million Barn 6. So we were listening. We're listening the best we can with the people that do express their opinions and try to make it work. But I was glad that people showed up. Great. As for, it's got me down here for discussion at the coffee shop, but we just brought somebody that was interested in the coffee shop, and that's had negotiations with the GM.
We can actually give you a little update on the coffee shop since it's listed there. So Michael and I met with the prospective tenant over there with this contractor. David, this couple days, Tuesday. We met him over there Tuesday. We got to get back in over there with his engineer, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, so they can see what needs to be done so we can get his price together. So he does have a current lease that we proposed originally to him, the one we discussed and closed. That was given to him, and he still is in possession of that until he gets his numbers and everything like that. Then he wants to come back to us.
So ongoing.
Good.
We do have another meeting on September 4th. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. N&E Committee. Rob, anything, sir?
Yeah, we got quite a bit, actually. So the candidate application period is still going until the 4:30, close of business at the Welcome Center on September 2nd. So anybody who's thinking about applying for an open position, I encourage you to do so. You can download the application from the Sun Valley website, or you can pick up one at the Welcome Center. At the end of close of business on the 2nd, we will be having an N&E special meeting in the dance bar at 4:45, where we will be opening the applications. Michael Bennett will be vetting those candidates to see that their members are in standing, and then we will have a lottery for how those people will apply, how those candidates will appear on the ballot in order, and also in the views. Once that has occurred, applicants need to submit to me a picture, just a headshot and a 100-word bio by Friday, at the close of business Friday. In the past, we've had to chase people down, help them do some editing. Please don't do that at 4 o'clock on Friday. The reason why this is so important is because we are editing the booklet, and we're trying to get those bios and those pictures in so that we can get those to Unilect in time. We have submitted the artwork to Unilect and the booklet saying these are the style sheets that they can use. I think in the agenda packets, they come back and show us. We told them we want to use the same mailing envelope, same booklet styles as we used last year, colors and whatnot. I think they talked about some colors of the envelopes in terms of, I think the blue envelopes are more readily available now than the pink. Kind of following on sort of a timeline, we have candidate forum scheduled for Tuesday, September 24th from 6:30 to 8:30, and then Friday, October 11th from 6:30 to 8:30. Both of those will be in the dance barn, they'll be out on Zoom. And then there will be a meet and greet on Saturday, October 28th in the dance barn. And that's gonna start at 3.
28 or 26, Rob?
The 26th, did I say the 28th? I'm sorry.
I'm sure.
And I think that Sunday is October 26th.
Yeah, it is a Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, October 26th, I apologize. So, that's gonna start at 3 o'clock. The N&E Committee met on Monday, we talked about the questions on what we would ask during the candidate forums and the meet and greet. And we decided that specific questions around concerns around Sudden Valley, we would hope that people could ask those questions specifically during the meet and greet. And the candidate forum should be more appropriate to ask questions along the lines of, why do you want to spend time on the board? You know, what timeframes do you have? What skill sets do you have? Those kinds of questions. We may ask overall, there are a lot of issues, is there anything that you want to speak to, but we're not gonna scour social media looking for questions to ask people during the forums. It doesn't seem like a good use of the time. So our process is gonna be, as a committee, we are all going out and we're submitting questions, and then as a committee, we'll choose them, and of course, that's gonna be, that'll be televised or, YouTube dies as I watch YouTube on my television. So, yeah, we'll solidify those questions then, and hopefully it's gonna be great. I hope the community comes. We're looking at maybe being 2 hours, in the past, how many applicants we've had, maybe 5 questions. Most of those questions will be submitted to the applicants ahead of time so they can prepare and think about it. We do not want to make this a gotcha event at all. Okay. So with that, as we get down towards the new e-balloting process, that's adding a little more complexity in terms of dates and when Unilect needs information, state law for people to be opting in. I want to go over some of those dates because I tell you, some of these dates make my head explode a little bit because there's so much going on. I gotta almost have a cheat sheet. Staff has created a wonderful form for people to opt in, and it covers the state law and whatnot. So the initial list of people who have opted in, and what I understand is last week there was like 70 people who opted in.
It's up to 85 today.
Good. What I want, let me back up for a second. I really want the community to know that this is a safe, good way to vote. It will save the community money. If 50% of us opted, let's say 50% of us opted in and said, I don't need printed material sent to me, I'm gonna opt into electronic voting, it would cost us in this year's contract about $14,000, so that'd be half of us did it.
And this is for all savings?
Savings.
Savings of 14,000.
No, the cost would be 14,000. I think this year's contract, Michael, was about 23,000, maybe something like that, or 22 and some change.
The mailing and postage portion of it is what you're referring to.
Yeah,
And this is not just, when people opt in under the statute, they're opting in for document delivery. So that can be the budget packets as well.
That's important.
yeah,
Rob, people need to know that
That's a
they'll
big
receive their
expensive
ballot, information, how to vote, and their booklet, the whole 9 yards.
that's right, that's right, electronic. Okay, so, go ahead.
Yeah, so if somebody opts in for the electronic voting, they will still getting their mail ballots as well.
Yes,
This year.
This year. Let's be clear, when I'm saying that it would cost us $14,000 at this point, that would have been if 50% of the community said, do not mail me a paper ballot. I will opt in and receive an electronic ballot and vote that way. And what I'm trying to communicate today is there is some real savings for us as a community to vote electronically. And I think with the ease in you doing it, I'm hoping that we see more people voting, we see a better turnout. We really, really need a better turnout in Sudden Valley. And so this is one of the reasons why the N&E Committee said, let's get going with this year. So with that, let's talk about e-ballots specifically. UNELEC is requesting that the first list of people who have opted in the spreadsheet come to them at 12 noon on September 22nd. Now this is information coming to UNELEC, not electronic ballots coming back to us, okay? And then every week up until October 29th, those sheets of people that have opted in, that Michael's team can keep doing that up until the 29th. So it's not like if you don't opt in by the 22nd, you're out. We're just asking the community to, if you think this is something you're gonna do it sooner, because in the back end, there's a little bit of work, okay? Let's see, yeah, so the cutoff for sending UNELEC's the supplemental e-ballot list is October 29th. Now let's talk about how people will receive a e-ballot. So in the form, it requests both a person's email and their cell phone, okay? If somebody opts in on September 24th, those people will get a link that comes into them through a text and an email, just what we all saw, and they can start voting then. The reason why we did that is because the US ballots mail on September 24th, okay? And people can continue to vote with an e-ballot up until October 31st at 4:30. That coincides with when the paper ballot box at the community center, when those ballots close. And if somebody didn't get a chance to vote either way, they can still vote in person up until 12:30 down here in the rec center. Okay, so that's gonna be the process. I think the N&E Committee's job is to communicate it over and over again, because there are dates that are out there. And even in the N&E Committee, I'm just gonna speak for me, I've gotten some of those dates kind of mixed up. I think that what's hard is you have this flow of dates on when Sudden Valley is going to be sending in the information to UNELEC on who's opted in, and then when people can start voting and when those polls close. So the thing to remember for those of us who are gonna vote with an e-ballot, the voting period is exactly the same as a paper. okay? And I really encourage people to trust this process, to use it. I mean, I know for me, I open up an envelope, and fill out a ballot, and put it in a mailer, go to the post office. Man, I could just click on my cell phone and all the information that's in that paper envelope that got mailed to you is there. The ballot booklet, the instructions, everything's there, okay? Yeah, that's a lot of information, and I've got a lot of this, Linda, that I would like to submit to you to be put in the minutes.
Okay, that works.
Any questions?
If a candidate wanted to apply for the board, what is the drop dead date?
The drop dead is this coming Tuesday, September 2nd.
September 2nd.
At 4:30 PM. So they need to bring them in a envelope marked, attention, NE chair, and they hand them off to, staff, and they give those to Michael. They're all held in his office in a locked cabinet.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, so when we get the email saying, okay, it's time, you can register for electronic voting, will there be an option box to say, okay, we're gonna do this electronically, I don't need printed materials?
Well, so Tom, you aren't gonna get an email telling you to opt in. There is, on the Sun Valley website.
It's right here on your, you'll see it. It says Sun Valley Elections 2025.
Oh, okay.
And right down below it is a little form you're gonna fill out. Right there, hit enter, and then you'll be number 86.
Okay, so on that entrance, is there option to opt out of the mail?
Well, this year we won't opt out of mail. Everybody's gonna get mailed a ballot.
We wanted to make sure that, we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to vote, and we want to encourage everybody to vote. And then we'll start to encourage people, perhaps you might want to fully opt out of paper and only rely on an electronic ballot coming to you. That will save us money. There are some large HOAs in Florida that use this type of electronic voting. Suncadia, I believe, was today.
60% of the ballots received are electronic up there now.
Yeah.
Saving them $15,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's just the laws that especially, and I think that's the thing that's important for people to understand, is Washington state law requires you, if you're to receive electronic transmission at all from the Association of Documents, it's a requirement that you submit a form, much like they've done electronically, to indicate, yes, send it to me, that's how I want to receive it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep, opting in.
As always, if anybody has any questions, it's Bob Gibbs at southernvalley.com, and I'd love to help answer any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, safety committee, any updates?
Unfortunately, based on the agenda I was giving, we did not have a quorum, so the meeting got canceled.
Yep, no worries.
One bit of information that came up though was that as of August 24th, we're missing 8 new life jackets from the kiosk.
Oh.
But that's a good thing.
They'll come back at the end of the season.
Well, 10 went down there and replaced them, and he wrote Sun Valley on all of them.
But to me, it's a good thing if people are out using life jackets, right?
Oh, I saw a bunch of them
Yeah.
coming up Saturday.
Yeah.
Saw 4 of them in the marketplace. No.
Jeez.
Just said,
Swap meet, yeah. No, and the state, whoever supplied those, will replace them too.
Oh, they already have,
Yeah.
I believe.
Cool.
So
that's
it's-
great.
they're all about trying to promote safety and.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
All right. On item number 7, short-term rental task force, Daniel?
Yeah, just to back up a little bit, it was about 90 days ago that the board set up a mechanism for a short-term rental task force. Lori Robinson and I were chairs of that task force, and we were allowed to invite 6 members of the community to help us in formulating some recommendations to the board on how to regulate and register short-term rentals. So we've been meeting every other Wednesday. We haven't, it's not just two Wednesdays per month, but every other Wednesday. So we had to shift some schedules a little bit, but we had kind of a compressed schedule. I think I've got two of our members here today. They were very helpful. It was really nice to have community members from wide-ranging opinions and perspectives to help us formulate some of these recommendations. So we had some good discussions, a lot of anecdotes, experiences with short-term rentals. So I think we covered a lot of what most of the members of the community would have experience with short-term rentals. So we had a pretty good understanding of it. We did start out with recommendations from our attorney about what we can and can't do and where we should, what directions we should head with this. And we also had some advice from Michael from his previous experience with his other communities. So this is not an unusual thing to try to register and regulate short-term rentals. So that's where we were coming from. So I'm not going to go over everything that we have presented here in the agenda. It's available to the public. And also our meetings were on YouTube and they were open to the public. We did have a couple members of the public come see our meetings, and I'm not sure if anybody saw our YouTube meetings, but they are, I guess they're still out there, but they're all recorded. Thank you, Spencer. So I guess our first order of business and what we recommended was getting a registration system. I think we figured that was sort of the most important part of this whole process, getting everybody that owns a STR registered in the system so that it's very important to have a first contact, an immediate contact if there's any issue that comes up. At this point, we don't have any mechanism for registration at all, so it's sort of a black hole. And if any resident or neighbor has a complaint about a short-term rental, there's not a whole lot they can do other than knock on the door or call security, but they a lot of times won't have a contact to remedy the situation. So registration is really going to be a big part of this, and that's really part one of what we like to get accomplished with help from the board and admin. And a lot of these issues that Sudden Valley has been dealing with short-term rentals are not unique to our community, but we did talk about maybe unique Sudden Valley approaches to this. And given the constraints that we had, we've determined that we've got a registration form that may be edited, tweaked a little bit, but we provided one that we recommend. We've got a list of guidelines for our rules, Sudden Valley rules, that would be presented to every short-term rental guest. This is essentially just reiterating things that are already our rules that are in place, but if you have somebody that comes here for the weekend, they're not aware, they might not know you can't have a campfire in your backyard in August. And these are regulations that we really want to get in front of these people that come to our community for a weekend. And things that we cover like neighborhood etiquette, quiet hours, parking, pets, wildlife, fires and trash, and common areas. So those are pretty much the guidelines that we presented as things that need to be put before the renters.
Jamie?
Yeah.
Real quick, is that something that we have to pay for, providing all those materials, or is the homeowner?
We are proposing that there will be a fee for registration. We don't know what that is, but it will be determined by those types of things. It's not going to be just an arbitrary fee, but it will be a fee based on what it costs the community to allow these guests to come into our community.
I have a question for you. So in here mentioned a couple of times is a scraping service?
Service.
So
Yeah.
what,
That's actually, Jane,
That's a service that you can pay for that goes through all short-term rental platforms and looks for short-term rentals in your area.
can they, so could we also get a list of those that are, not that maybe aren't on, because I understand you're supposed to use either Verbo or Airbnb that are registered with the state of Washington as legal entities, and a lot of SDRs are. If you get a scraping company, will they list for you those, the ones that are in your area that right now we have no way of knowing where they are?
I don't have an answer to that, I just know that it's scraping services other communities have used. However, as far as I know, we never talked about Washington State having any requirement that you use VRBO or Airbnb. Washington State
You should check the DOR.
Washington State doesn't even have a registration mechanism for a large number of the types of STRs that we have in this community. They don't even qualify to be registered by Washington State. DOR is a separate thing, because then you're talking about taxes, and that's not our.
Oh, I know, it's just normally if you operate that as a business, which it is, you're required to
In some
submit
cases.
taxes, and usually then Verbo or Airbnb, if you're registered with them, they handle paying that for the owner.
That could be,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've looked a lot into it.
right,
How many STRs do we think are in Sun Valley?
I don't think we even know how many rentals there are, so that's a big part of it. I mean, we don't have that data. We don't have that data, and that's a
But
big part of it.
this would be a way to start that if the owners register?
Yeah,
Yeah, we just know ones that are currently listed with Airbnb and Verbo.
Can I?
Go ahead, sir.
A little background.
Yeah.
So, in Coronado, the city of Coronado and Coronado Cays, we dug deep into this, because Coronado was missing $500,000 in transient occupancy tax every year.
Yep.
So so I'll give you some of them here. Lease Abuse is an STR-specific monitoring platform. They do weekly scans of Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, FlipKey. There's Deckard Technologies called Rentalscape. They have a platform where they monitor 15 million listings. There's another vacation rental data scraping service called Travelscape, another called AirDNA, and then there are some customized STR applications called Bright Data, OxyLabs, Decadodo, Zeit, Nimblewave, there's a bunch of them. So they're all out there, and you just have to, when the cities get behind it, when they understand they're missing the TOT, they're the ones who pay for this usually.
I believe the city of Bellingham, it uses I don't know if it's a scraping company, and I can't remember, it starts with a G, it's Granicus or something like that I came across, that they use that handles all of their information as far as getting STRs registered and keeping track of who has one and who doesn't.
Sure. Well, Whatcom County's out 2% because that's their TOT. But we're not, I don't propose that we try to enforce their code. We would hope they'd help us enforce ours.
Yeah.
Right?
Have they done anything? Have they moved forward with any of that?
Nothing.
Since 2023? Nothing, yeah.
Nothing yet.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that when we do, I think it's gonna be a model. The one rub is the conditional use permit.
Yeah.
Because when they jump on that bandwagon, the CUP costs $4,000, unless they figure out a way that they can streamline it for SDRs, right? That's a big number.
Yes.
Now, within the last week or 10 days, Jane, did you see this? I saw it on, I'm pretty sure it's Facebook, that there was some discussion on STRs, and the discussion was, there's not that many of them, and posted a map with some red dots on it.
I didn't see that at all.
And it had like a dozen.
There was 67 that were on that map,
And
those
then
were the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, somebody else posted another map and said, no, this is what we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, it was covered.
So,
I guarantee you they're way more than 67.
Yeah, we found in Suncadia, the way that we got people to self-identify, the ones who were bootlegging, was a $2,000 fine.
Oh, great.
Say, look, if you want to bootleg and not register, that's fine, but when we catch you, it's $2,000.
Yeah, so we're gonna determine what registration form we want, how we want that to roll out, but phase one, as it says in our agenda, awareness, we really need people to just be aware that we're gonna start doing this. You know, newsletters, every e-blast, whatever it takes to get it out there. Just awareness so people know we're looking at this issue and this is the process we're gonna implement. Phase two, voluntary registration, 2 to 5 months, which is plenty of time to get people to get registered. After that, you know, it's, we're gonna be looking for those people that haven't registered, and we wanna know who they are. There will be a fee to register, because, you know, even just admin, it's gonna cost money, so we'll determine what that number is, but we do want sort of a voluntary compliance early on. You know, that, no fee at all, I mean, there will be a fee, and we haven't actually figured out what that structure is yet, but you know, we wanna reward people for early registration, and then penalize people when they go like a year or 6 months without, you know, letting us know, so that's what we're proposing as far as the timeline goes.
Good start.
yeah, so what we'd like to do is have everyone review this, because we want to get it back on the agenda so we can get it going, try to get it going this year, would be ideal, right? So we give people plenty of time, they know what we're planning on doing. But there's a lot that has to be done. We need to think about the fees and fines, things like that. A lot of work that Michael has to do to come up with admin costs, what he thinks it's gonna cost, you know, who's gonna do what. And someone mentioned here about printing, I think you did, Tom, and if we're paying for that, and maybe that's something we decide it's the best interest of us to do, and then there's a fee for that, right? So we need to know what all those costs would be, so we're fair on a registration fee. So everyone, I want you to, you know, take a look at this. If you can, culminate some questions, get them into Michael, or send them around to the board or whatever, and that way we can all kind of, instead of having 20 of the same questions, we can kind of whittle it down to just maybe 20 questions and try to get some answers, and then keep moving on this thing.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Just want to give you a little perspective. If we just took the 65 rental units that we know about, at a $250 ADR, average daily rate, right? Times just 50% occupancy, that's $3 million in rental revenue.
Wow.
That people are getting at the expense of people who don't rent, right? The trash, the parking, the noise, you know.
So that's just for 65?
That's just 65. 250 ADR times 65 times 180 days is $2.9 million. At Coronado, in Coronado Cays, it was $25 million in the rental revenue, because some of these units were renting for $2,500 a night. And people would, the owners would say, oh, I'll pay a $500 fine, I don't care. It wasn't until their fine went up to $5,000 a night that they got compliance. So it's not just here, folks, you know, we want it to be fair. There are people who really rely on rental income to make their mortgage, right? Or have cash flow, so you want to be fair about it.
One of the things that would be good to look at is because I know there is a cost of the scraping services, of maybe get 3 or 4 of them, and you know, what is the rate that we would have to pay to be able to sign on to have them give us this information? I'm sure there is.
Oh, yeah, we can find that out, yep.
If we could just get 3 or 4 of them, and then, you know, because then you can look at Yelp reviews and different reviews of them to see which one is best. Because I think if we're gonna do that, that's gonna be one of the first things we're gonna have to have. You have to identify them.
All right, so yeah, if you guys could, you know, spend a little time looking at that, reviewing it, and ask you to have your questions, that would be fantastic, get them in early, and then we'll try to get it back on the next agenda if possible, so we can either discuss further or go ahead and let Michael start moving forward with the registration program, and we're gonna have to go over the
Can I add
policy.
one thing, in case it's not in Daniel's thing before I go? One thing we talked about quite a bit is our governing documents only specify one type of lease, you lease. There's not a thing about the short-term renters versus the lessers, and so for the people that are leasing their houses. So one thing that another member of our group, who is a short-term rental owner and is an attorney, we just need to make sure that we're not putting more restrictions on people that are short-term rentals than we do on people that lease their home long-term. Whether that's administrative costs or additional enforcement or anything like that, it has to be the same, whether you rent for 30 days or 1 day or 5 years. You really have one legal entity for that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's fair.
I think the bylaws need to be amended.
Yeah.
I think right now, there's nothing for any under 30 days. That's what I wanted to put in last year, but people weren't in support of it, so. Missed the point.
Well, that'll be something, bring that up, right? We do need, that's what I said at the last of that, going out with bylaws, we're gonna have to do something.
Well, the way we got around that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just quickly, the other thing that we don't think is on our bylaws is quiet hours. The quiet hours we put in there are Whatcom County quiet hours, but it doesn't say, I don't think it's, so we're gonna be amending.
I think they may be in our rules and regulations, but that's something to look at. But I think it's in our rules and regulations.
It is.
Yeah,
I'd see it.
It's a good point, though. Yeah.
thank you.
Quiet hours.
Yeah, actually, we couldn't find that. We did find, quiet hours for related to construction, but we couldn't find specific
I'll look.
ones.
It might not be, it might not be in there.
But that's something that, again, that's something that should apply across the board.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think even the homes that are in long-term leases are supposed to be registered, and I'm not sure there's much enforcement on that.
I think there are a couple.
So the compliance needs to be consistent. I think that's part of what they're saying, is that you can't just stick it on the STRC when you have other rentals.
Yeah.
Let's be consistent.
All right, very good. Moving on, we got continuing business. Approval request to ratify the driveway improvement easement for SBCA parcel 29423. It's on page 33 in your binder, or my binder, page 33 and then your, I guess we all have binders, so most of us, on your laptop. Michael?
Thanks, Mr. President. This is hopefully the third and final time we'll bring it to you. The 5 owners have agreed to pay the $3,000 to $5,000 in legal fees, and CSD, Richard's firm, went ahead and amended section 2.2 to accommodate that. And the current amount billed is actually $4,500. So they have all agreed, the 5 owners agreed to make that payment, and it is written into the easement here under 2.2.
So originally, they proposed a permeable surface driveway. I didn't see that terminology in this document. Maybe I missed it.
All it says is compliance with Whatcom County standards, and they have already reached out to the county, and they're they've already filed a pre-permit with the county.
So the space that they're paving is a park, considered a park, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, have you looked at the little road that they're referring to? Yeah. Okay.
But my point is that it's a park area, and it's supposed to be, so as long as the county knows it's a park, I guess that's all good.
I think it has to go through ACC though, too, doesn't it? Approval,
Yep.
what they put in there.
Yeah, it's got under 2, section 2, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
I think those, all 3 will cover those.
And I'd like to thank you for whoever amended number 6.
That would be me and Richard. I don't know why,
It has to do with revocable and perpetual.
it's in a different font, just to stand out for you.
I'm just glad that it's, because that was just really confusing. And I'm glad that it's gone from there.
All right, I'm gonna read the motion on this. So the motion is moved that the Board of Directors ratify the revocable easement for ingress and egress dated June 30th, 2025, attachment A, and authorize the general manager to execute and record the easement and direct staff to notify the grantees upon recording.
Second.
Thank you, Linda. Any further questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor? That's unanimous.
Unanimous.
All right, on to item 6B on continuing business, it'll be page 48, and this will be Joel, it'll be our budget.
Well, I guess at this point, in terms of the operating and capital budgets, it would just come down to any further questions that the board has.
All right, what else, questions then?
So, not a question, but there was concerns raised about the dues increase being allocated to operations and no increases, I should say, to capital reserve. But I queried Joel a little bit. I said, in the past 2 years, we have collected just shy of 98%. We budgeted 95. So that extra 3% gets allocated proportionally to ops, roads, SER, mailboxes, as well as ops. My calculation of that, if we were to collect the extra 2.9%, as we have the past 2 years, would exceed the 3% recommended contribution to capital. So we would actually be making the contributions recommended, the increase recommended contributions to capital. So I felt better about that because I too was concerned about not contributing to our capital reserve funds. Now, there's no guarantee we'll collect the 97.9 again, but
That's right.
we have 2 years in a row where we have, so. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to share some concerns that were raised in our finance committee that had to do not so much with the budget per se. Just a question about the HVAC replacement, and I guess Michael's out. If alternatives have been considered, especially the one, so this is the one that's in the clubhouse?
Yes.
Right, yeah. And is that the one where the permit lapsed?
Yes.
And so another related question to that was, that lapse occurred indirectly as a result of the transition in this race. Well, is it worth approaching the county and explaining the circumstances of the transition and the trees and all that stuff that getting distracted and maybe asking for?
Well, that's a good question, because I heard it was gonna be, we already did that, but I don't know, to be roughly half of what we projected it was gonna be. So we'll ask Michael.
Why did the permit lapse? I couldn't hear that, sorry.
Because I was whispering, so no one could hear.
I thought it was my hearing aids.
No, I didn't answer why. We're gonna, Michael, the question's coming up about the HVAC, the HVAC unit, why the permit lapsed. Reasons for the lapse.
Yeah, it was only a 6-month permit. So you pulled the permit in December, I guess, right before I got here. So when the permit was pulled, and then it was left off the agenda until now. So we, at the time, the discussion I had with Joanne was she was unsure what the status was with Allegade. We can't really get into detail.
Right.
Yeah. So that was part of it.
Yeah.
On what was going to be done with that space, because it's pretty intrusive. It's a big unit, and it's going to disrupt it. So anyway, I had no idea it was a 6-month permit, but the renewal on the permit's only $400. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was concerned that maybe hope that hopefully the renewal is gonna be much less than the initial.
Yeah,
So-
Tyler already talked to him. It's pretty much a slam dunk.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and the fortunate thing, no changes in code or energy structure during that time. because
Yeah, well,
We'll have to update it.
Yeah, exactly, that was another.
Yeah, it was just 3 months ago that it expired, so.
So, yeah, in our finance committee, the three main concerns that they wanted me to share with the board were the large ongoing legal expenses that seem to be exceeding budget each year. Of course, wanting to allocate funding, significant funding towards trees and forest health, and then the concern about capital reserve contributions. So, I'm pretty good with those myself, except for legal, so it just seems to be a bottomless hole that we keep shuffling money into, but can't be avoided.
Yeah, I think more so recently because of the situation, well, the last couple of years, because of the situation we've experienced.
Yeah, they were just, there's a lot of things that I couldn't share with them about.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Same
Hopefully
with,
that'll subside, coming.
same with, there's a new member of our community that was asking me about, she went to the budget town hall and she was asking me, well, boy, I see that there's a huge increase in legal. And I said, yeah, there's just some stuff going on, but yeah. So, I guess a new member picked right up on that because she looked at the data.
Any, yes, Linda?
Ready?
Yes.
Long. So once again, I have sent this to Joel already, I've sent it to Rick, I've sent it to the execs. Once again, I find it irresponsible to have no increase in our reserves. The promise of next year isn't acceptable. If you look at both surf and roads, beginning in 2029, we begin to fall below acceptable balances for funding these reserves. If you review the 2026 surf balance, the only way that it isn't in the negative is adding the proposed loan monopoly money. We haven't taken that money out yet. Without that $4 million in there, the 2026 reserve, surf reserve falls, now that I've got your amended one also, will give us a negative $1,565,791. That's without that loan. So the idea that we don't need to increase our reserves is ridiculous. I went over and I've sent to Joel, and I think they're fairly accurate, I don't think they're unreasonable. Different departments that have overages that are way over, that basically there's $54,500 in ops that could be put toward the hazard trees, take them down to 20,000, take the 100,000 and divide it between surf and roads. It's just not acceptable. I was glad to see, because it kind of backs up what I'm talking about, the 2026 reserve funding disclosure report. And it says our current funding plan in 2026 is our annual contributions will be $5 million, that includes the loan, and $36.70 per month. What's interesting is then we're gonna move up to $37.86, and I realize we're above, in 2026, we're above the $36.70 if I'm not mistaken. But then below that comes the recommended funding plan from our reserve specialist that says our annual contribution should be $6,148,900, and that the monthly reserve contribution per owner should be $57.47. And that's why I'm saying to not have the money, be willing to make the change now, and at least put something moving forward into our reserves. I can say, sitting in this meeting, when we vote on the budget, if there's nothing in reserves, I will vote against it, because it's irresponsible.
So that is for surf that you're talking about?
Yes, it's the only thing, roads are fine.
Roads are fine, yeah.
Well, here's, first of all, Linda, obviously when it comes to funding the reserves, I wish we could put 7% every single one of these line items. Now, the reason why I specifically, in that funding model that you were talking about, you were referencing the reserve study, that's become fully funded, 100% fully funded. Which obviously we're not, and most associations aren't to be fully, I mean, obviously that would be the ideal to do it, but we're quite a ways away from it.
But that gives us, that's only 30%, 32% funded. I'm reading from his stuff, where currently where we're at is somewhere around 24%.
We're 22% this year.
Oop, even worse than I thought, okay.
Actually, 22%.
That was my case.
22%, especially with all the additional added costs, like the bar maintenance stuff. I was actually pleased to see that it was at 22%, at that point, so.
It's just, it's scary. We're
Yeah,
not
because-
doing the membership any favor. Where we went for years with only 3% funded, it all went to ops. They didn't put any, Joanne's the only one who's had any sense, our former general manager, to put a decent amount in last year, where we've seen 22% increase. Every year, we see 4%. If we're putting nothing in there, you're only making us fall farther behind. And that's all I've got to say. If there is no contribution to our reserves, and there's a way to do it and still have a really healthy increase in the hazard trees by using some of these other amounts that are in the ops budget that are way over. There's some of them, there's no way you can justify the amount that's sitting in here, because even in if I look at the 2024, there's none of them that match with this. You know, if you take the average, there's, to have 45,000 in a budget that averaged $17,000 over 4 years, and you want 45, there's $22,000 right there. I'm sorry, it's just, it makes no sense to have some of this stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Let's see if you want to respond to that at all, or you good?
Yeah, like, okay, so for example, of course, we've kind of lightly gone over this before in my office, but like, for example, that item that you're talking about, GL 6550, and that's facilities, that's building repair and maintenance. So Mike Brock was asking for 45,000 for, let me see. Okay, so for this line item, just by the fact that he hasn't been spending as much as that in previous years, would increase the likelihood that he would have to spend possibly that much in 2026 for old building and repair and maintenance. So keep in mind, these are line items that the department managers themselves have asked for, what they feel that they would need or possibly need in 2026.
But it doesn't even come close.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, he has two building R&M accounts, one for materials and one for vendors. And in both instances, there's not, when you add, just in averaging, you know, and his late, like in, for instance, in 2024, a year ago, he only spent, let's say, almost $18,000, and yet he needs 40 for this year, for the upcoming year. You know, he's only spent 9,000, you know, like 10,000 this year. I'm saying there's some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. And there's money there, you
well,
know?
I mean, in 2020, we spent 36,000 for building repair and maintenance.
That isn't what it says here.
We could also do the same thing with hazardous trees, like for example, well, like of course, you know, I've shown the graph up there on the screen, and in 2014, we spent 32,000, 2015, I'll just round these, 15,000, I'll just skip ahead to 2020, we're at 59,000, 2021, now we jumped to 140,000, so in 2022, 203,000, I mean, so where I'm going with this is Mike Brock, the facilities and maintenance manager himself, asked for that particular line item. And he's the one that obviously takes care of all these buildings. Back in 2020, like I said, we spent 36,000. And it's the fact that we haven't spent as much as 40,000 in the previous year since then. If anything, I would say the likelihood's going up with these old buildings that he could possibly spend 40,000. And that's what he's asked for.
But the whole thing is, if he hasn't in 4 years, you're not gonna see that big of an increase. You would see that on and on and
But with
on.
these old buildings, the likelihood goes up. that repair and maintenance could go up from year to year.
So he's forecasting, he's probably looking at some items that he's expecting to have to deal with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
What it sounds like.
Because he didn't have to deal with it last year, or the year before, or the year before that.
right.
The likelihood of him needing to do that.
It's coming up.
Still telling you, averaging,
So
normally
what,
people
what
do.
percentage would you like to see then?
I've said that if we would cut back some of these, not to give them no increases for
So,
2026.
no, let's get back to the SERF. What percentage would you like to contribute? What percentage
I
would
would
you like to see?
I would like to see $100,000 out of ops be transferred equally between roads and SERF. It's
Okay.
not a lot of money.
Now, since you mentioned roads and service, so the thing is, so this is where I'm going with this budget for 2026. Our primary concern at this point is the hazardous trees. So since you said roads and surf, you do recall back in December.
Roads are
12th, so-
fine, roads are fine, though,
Yeah, roads is not the issue.
Yeah, no,
It's not as much of an issue.
If you wanna give it all to SERF, that's fine with me,
But-
although I think you should, we have to stop not funding our
Yeah,
reserves.
but what I'm
agree.
saying is December 12th, 2024. Roads, the board had to approve capital expenditures out of roads for hazardous trees, $228,131.
That was because of an extreme event that we
Okay,
had.
well,
It's like the flooding we had in, what year was that, AJ could tell me, that there was money that had to be spent, an inordinate amount out of surf and roads and from up the bridge that had to be repaired over the golf course.
look at the end of July 2025, we've already spent $186,235 on hazardous trees. The board approved at the first board meeting in June, an additional $100,000 to come out of UDR for trees. That was June, right? The first board meeting in June. I didn't start charging anything to UDR until June, so I didn't go back and charge before that. At the end of July, you've already spent $59,000 on that. So you see what I mean? You've
But
already
also,
spent that.
Joel, isn't the increase for hazardous trees around forest management?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just hazardous trees, it's wildfire prevention.
Fortunately, yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, then, Michael, in terms of the.
Fireworks. What possible?
What's the name of that, company?
Burn bot.
Burns
is the
Box.
one
Somebody
who
asked me yesterday, and I couldn't remember.
You know, but they want 15,000 even if they just come out and do a demonstration for us.
Correct.
Gee,
But the demonstration still gets you 15 acres firelight.
That's pretty good, that's a good price, $1,000 an acre.
Oh, I see, that's different, I thought they were just gonna.
You need to go watch one of their videos.
11 acres for 15,000.
I have a question, you just bear with me a little bit, you guys, because sometimes it's hard for me to track some of the numbers. I heard $4 million is there $4 million that's in our capital reserves that if it wasn't?
So what Linda is talking about is in the 10-year capital plan. So in 2026 for the barn 8 refurbishment,
Yeah,
it's approximately $4 million. So KingWorks came in February 2025, we got that KingWorks report for all the updated costs, and it became approximately 3.75 million. So then when you tack on a 4% escalation rate to kick it into 2026, it comes out to about 4 million.
Just below 4
Okay.
million.
Yeah,
okay, I'm
and
with you.
that's what those loan funds that Linda's referring to is for, is to cover that. Now previously in, like last year's capital plan, if you added up all those components for the barn, it was about 1.2 million or so. So you've seen it's gone from about 1.2 million to 4 million with the latest cost estimates. And that's where the loan comes in to supplement the reserve funding. Otherwise, Linda's right, without those $4 million funds, we
Be
would,
$1 million,
yeah,
5 in the hole,
yeah,
$1.6 million really,
Right.
closer. That's why I'm saying, I understand we have hazard trees. I understand we also have a UDR. There was a couple of years when a prior board was on, when the push was made that we're gonna clean up all these back trees, this back log we have of hazard trees. And they decided to do that, and they took huge amounts repeatedly out of the UDR.
yeah, exactly.
So that's why I'm saying, move around a little bit of this stuff in ops, give it 2.5, and then whatever, but and just simply put,
So what I was saying between roads and surf, December 12th, so approximately 480,000 was approved to come out of those capital funds for hazardous streets. And also in 2024, we also had 55,000 come out of UDR for hazardous trees. So in 2024, we spent a total of almost $460,000 in hazardous
that's
trees.
because of the bomb cycle.
Yeah, because of the bomb cyclone, but the bomb.
You know, that's a one-time, how do I say it?
Yeah, but we
You
also.
can't base that on something that's like the 100-year flood. Do I know that there's been actually been a bomb cyclone in Sudden Valley before? I have. In reading and looking at all this stuff, back in the 80s, there was a huge thing. But I'm saying, you can't say, I'm not gonna fund this, I'm gonna throw all this money at this, I'm not gonna fund my reserves because of something that happened. We were able to have reserves to be able to use that, and luckily, we haven't had enough money in ops this year because we collected over our amount to
And that's-
reimburse and move stuff around.
Yes, and
But you
that's-
wouldn't have it if you're always reducing the reserves.
No, but that's my second point, so you're right about, so we had, okay, so in 2024, out of those hazardous tree expenses, 290,810, that's just 2024, you know?
Mhm.
So, and that came out of surf and roads.
Yes.
But at the end of 2024, and once all the dust kind of settled on that, you know, we had a surplus enough to cover that. So that's why I brought it to the board to take all the money from operations and switch it back to surf and roads and undo those expenses.
I
So-
understand.
So the second part of this is, this gives us the flexibility to have the money, in a sense, in the line item sitting there. Now, at the end of 2026, let's just say we get lucky, and we only had $100,000 in tree expenses, I mean, that'd be fabulous if that was the case. And then we're sitting, and everything came out exactly as the budget said, we'd be sitting on a $200,000 surplus. At that point, the board can move it to surf or to roads, see what I mean? But then it saves you if there's like a catastrophe with trees, or like, for example, the storm that's, who knows how many trees have been weakened with that eastward wind that came in, that other trees that could come down this coming fall and winter that, you know, over and beyond what might come down already. Now the board doesn't, like when the board did this December 12th thing, you know, you had to like meet as the executives and approve emergency funding to come out of there. So it's like, now we don't, that won't have to be done. The money's sitting there waiting to go. I remember back during that storm event, Joanne like made the comment, you know, as we're scrambling to get these capital requests together and stuff, and then she flat out said, it feels as though we're like literally looking under our couch cushions for hazardous tree removal money, you know, so it's like, so
We
that,
always have.
yeah, but that's why we have the money sitting there waiting.
I'm just saying, if you're not gonna put money in the reserves, I think it's wrong, and I will vote against this budget.
So,
I may be the only one in this room of everybody voting, but I will vote against it.
next year,
Irresponsible. You're asking people to, even when we go to, if we take out the $4 million loan for a couple of years, we're not gonna be paying $300,000 of our reserves to pay off the loan. We're gonna be paying $700,000 that's committed just to be paying that loan. Am I not right? There's $333, and I think the new amount for the $4 million loan is $438,000. So now you've got almost $1 million of our reserves that's capital committed to paying off these loans. It's why I'm
Yes.
saying it's
is
irresponsible.
part of the $4 million loan the purchase of the Welcome Center?
No, this is all for the barn aid.
That's done and
All
gone.
for the barn aid.
Well, the loan's still going.
Yeah, the loan's still going, and it
So
will
we
retire in
borrow
2029.
money for barn 8 for the siding and what, I'm
No,
sorry.
this is future borrowing, meaning, so this would be borrowing in 2026.
I got you. And next year, on the reserves, is there some pretty hefty, items that we expect their useful life to be replaced next year? In other words, are we gonna be depleting that reserve? A bit?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm sorry.
So we have
So what I-
funds to
let me
pay
try to-
for all the upcoming expected
replacements. We have funds to do that.
Okay.
We're good for the foreseeable,
Yeah.
for what's in the reserve study,
So,
basically.
do you understand what my question is though? So,
Yeah.
so we have enough for everything in the foreseeable future, including next year, where there's some items that are gonna be, need to be replaced due to their useful life is
Yes.
complete.
Yes, so I mean,
That's the stuff we have covered, but what's not covered is some emergency, you
Yeah,
know.
the basic.
Just things like the HVAC in the clubhouse we're gonna talk about tonight, that's way over budget.
and that's in the reserve study. So
Yes, I
that's
saw that
already
in there.
reflected in the reserve study.
So can I
Thanks for
give you
your
a-
patience, guys, I'm just trying to track it.
No,
Yeah.
just to
Can I give you just a little perspective as an outsider who's only been here a year?
Yeah.
But, so your funding plan is what's called baseline funding. Okay, it's fully funded, right, which the goal is to be 100% funded within 30 years. There's threshold funding, which you set a threshold of, say, you want to be 50% funded by 2030. Your funding is baseline, and it's based upon the fact that you've had no increases in the contribution to the reserve fund over the last 5 to 6 years that I can see.
Well, we did last year.
Yeah, that was the first one, correct. But in the reserve study, if you look at it, all of the expense line items go up at least 3% every year. And in those years, if you're not increasing the member contribution to reserves by at least the 3%, then you're going backwards in the percent funding. So do you have enough money to cover the things that are in the 10-year capital plan as they are? Yes, but it depends how much we're gonna have to spend on this building.
Yeah,
Here's an interesting number for you. So I'm looking at Joel's numbers, his updated numbers. And we come along here and we say our carryover for 2026 is supposed to be, and that's with our 600 and the paying all the stuff, is $1,834,210. In 2027, we're $1,909,332. In 28, we're $1,966,446. In 2029, we're $127,874. In 2030, we go down to $37,920. That's why you can't do it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of another one of my points. So another one of my points is, as Linda is.
I'm saying when you work it out, because you're looking at 30 years.
Right, yeah, so what I'm saying is, in the earlier years, it's not as much of a concern. I mean, to me, the primary pressing concern are those hazardous trees. So if you think about it like this, let's just say, the 2026 budget's all done as proposed and passed and accepted by the membership. Then if we fast
No,
forward.
rejected by the membership, don't be confused.
Just hold on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is wrong.
And then if you fast forward to next year, and we're doing the budget next year, right? So now we're working on the 2027 budget. And then if I say, let's just say, we all say, we're not gonna increase dues whatsoever. Dues will all stay flat. At that point, you still have a $300,000 line item in hazardous trees. Since we did the heavy lifting for the 2026 budget to get that line item up, So like, in 2027, if you didn't increase dues whatsoever over the 2026 dues, you've locked in that $300,000 hazardous tree line item already, it's baked in. So what I was thinking would be to do the heavy lifting, get the hazardous tree up to 300,000, and then in 2027, for the 2027 budget, then start pivoting more towards capital type dues increases. Since, like, as Linda pointed out, she was pointing out the capital funds, she was talking about the beginning balance from year to year. It's not the earlier years, it becomes the later years. Go ahead, Adrian.
So there's a 7% dues increase proposed in this budget with 14% of it going, or 14% increase into ops. How much of the 14% is encompassed in the $200,000 increase to the hazardous tree line item?
Well, like for example, so there's about to go from the 2025 to the 2026 increases in expenditures, like total expenditures from 2025 to 2026, it's approximately about $500,000, and hazardous tree, the increase in hazardous tree is 35% of that.
So 35% of 14%, is that?
So outside of the hazardous tree removal, what percentage increase would you need for ops if you did the 7% increase? Instead of 14, you could drop it to what percentage into ops, leaving X percentage left for capital?
Well, the thing is, if we moved about $4.50 away from ops to capital, that would take out about $160,000 from operations.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't quite.
So like, let's just say we decided, out of all the dues increases, the total dues increase, the monthly dues increase, if you said, let's move $4.50 of that to capital, that would reduce the amount going to ops by about $160,000.
I'm saying take out the 200,000 out of that budget now, leave it 0% increase in hazard trees. What's the percent increase to ops then? If you have a still 7%, this is just hypothetical, I'm thinking, so you still have a 7% proposed increase overall. Normally that 7% can get split between ops and capital. Right now, it's not being split, so it's all being driven into capital, right? For 14% increase.
No, into ops, it's all being driven into ops.
So 14% increase is going to ops. If we removed a $200,000 increase to the hazard tree line item and left it at 100,000 like it was in the previous budget, what is our percent increase instead of 14% to ops?
Well, then it would become a little more closely mimicking 777, like 7 ops, 7 capital.
I can give you that number here. It's 3, so it's 3.2.
Or the 7% increase pushes 21% into ops, am I, got that wrong? Or is it 14?
It'd be 14. It's basically, it's just,
Okay.
ops is about 50%.
So Joe, it's gonna be 306,147.8 minus 2,856,083. So it's a $205,000 delta, $200,000 delta. So it would be increasing divided by.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's
5, 6, so 83. Be a 7.1% increase in ops instead of 14.
So there'd be almost 7% left to be able to go
To
into capital.
divide between capital.
So, which checks 7%. So that 7% would be going to capital.
And I'm not asking for that much, I'm just saying,
And I'm asking, what number do you want?
I want that there can be $200,000 in hazard trees. Take that $100,000 and divide it equally if you want between surf and roads. Roads gets more now than surf does anyway. But if we think that surf is where we need to focus because of these loans and things that are coming up and other expenses that need to be covered, then put it all in surf. I'd rather see it just equally divided between the two of them. That's $50,000, that's really not a huge amount. That's all I'm asking you to consider. I'm not saying don't increase the hazard trees at all. There's some of these line items that I think can be reduced. Take that reduction and put that in hazard trees that you want, that'll give you over the 200,000. But take that 100,000 and divide it between surf and roads. It's just.
Actually, to answer AJ's question real quick, it's in the ballpark, it's saying ops goes up 7%, roads goes up 7%, surf goes up 7%. It's pretty close to that.
That's kind of what Joanne did last year.
Yeah, that's what we did last year.
Like, all three can't go up 7%, right?
Yeah, no, it's close.
It's split between ops and capital, and then capital, so the 7% for capital will be split in half again to
But the
roads.
proportion, the proportion of
So ops is half the budget.
Yeah.
Surf and roads is half the budget. So it's 7%,
maybe this helps.
the 7% is split up between surf and roads, so
Yes.
they each will go up 3.5 of the total dues use, but it's 7% of their budget.
Yeah, so ops, so the 2025 ops amount was 7721, and then when you add up all surf roads, mailboxes, that's 7907, so it's pretty close.
So,
Well, I would also point out, along with what Linda's saying, is it requires a loan to actually balance the budget, and it doesn't factor in a brand new building and all its components that will be added to the reserve study
One thing, even if we were to do
in the coming
777,
years.
even if you did that, you can't get away from the loan to be borrowing. And then you would be stuck at trees at 100,000, then you'd be right back to where you are before. You'll be asking for money to come out
I
of
don't want
DVR.
seven, I don't want seven, I'm just saying 50,000, just take 100,000 out of trees, take some of the extras, you have my numbers there of where they still can have increases in ops, just not as much. Take that extra, put that to your, whatever that number comes out then
In my
for.
opinion, there's no extra in operations to move around.
Well,
Here's the thing, even if you find line items where you're like, this line item can be reduced in the operating budget, I can tell you right now, that would have to go to a couple other line items that are pretty rosy, because we have no choice to get this budget to balance. And that's the hard fact of it. I'm telling you, there's nowhere to run.
There's $200,000 in trees.
Yeah, but, I mean, were you listening to how much I said we spent on trees over the years?
I get it,
But it's a
but
long cycle. I'm
eventually
like
you have to
taking
think
it-
the tree situation will start to tail off.
Yep, right, but what I'm saying is, let's just say, hopefully you guys are right, and trees are only 100,000 in 2026, I mean, I hope that's the case, it's only 100,000. Then that would mean we would have, and everything else, ceteris paribus, exactly the same, that we would have a $200,000 surplus. There's nothing stopping the board from moving that from operations to those capital reserve funds, just like we did.
And there's nothing stopping staff from coming to the board and asking for money, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, but they asked for money out of the capital funds.
Yeah, out of UDR.
Well,
It's no different if you ask for the funds out of capital or we put it back into capital, it's all like, the money's gonna have to come from somewhere, and we should contribute to the capital reserves.
so,
If the plan is to build a new $3 million enclosed building on Barn 6 footprint, and none of those new components are added, I'm hoping that it's not a 2-story building requiring an elevator anymore.
One story.
Because that would increase our reserve study quite a bit, I can guarantee you that.
Right now, that barn 6 building is not a part of this budget or the reserve study.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, there's, like, even the demo of Barn 6 is off the reserve study?
No, those funds are still there.
That's been
Just-
moved out to
they've just
the
been moved out
future,
because-
AJ.
And it's not like, we didn't move it out because we just wanted to move it out. At this point, we have no choice because the barn ain't going from 1.2 million to 4 million.
Well, we could also not pour an extra multi-million dollars into this barn when there's 0 guarantees, and they basically said, if those seismic things are required to keep this building up, it isn't usable anymore anyways, no matter what. Like, all we're getting is some undetermined amount of time that a geotechnical engineer won't say on the record to provide people to get out. Could be seconds, could be nothing, could be minutes, could prevent it from falling, but we have no idea, but we're just, and that's $2 million.
So from the
Just
reserve,
fix the object exterior and call it good.
from the reserve study, AJ, from 2025, our fully funded reserve balance was $8,383,529. The brand new one, $13,161,334. So $5 million is in there somewhere.
Oh, of course it's in there.
Right, what?
And we,
Sorry,
and
it
the
also
other
went
barn has
up.
gone up to 4 million.
You're saying it went up by that much?
Yes, from the 8 million to the 13 million.
All right, Rick?
Well, because there's 4 million.
That's right, but he said that's not in there, and I'm saying it is in
What are you
there.
talking about? It is in there, of course it's in there. Barn 8 is totally in the reserve study. Everything that
Barn
you see.
6's replacement building is not in the reserve
Yeah, no,
study.
it's still in there, it's just at the original map that it always was, like around $1 million or so.
Yes, but what I'm saying is
The new one, no.
all of the new components will have to, in that building, granted, they'll have a life cycle being new, but they will have to get added to our 30-year plan,
Yep,
you know? And so you're adding all of that, which, you know, you're going to have with whatever gets replaced out there too. So there's that consideration as well, that none of those numbers are actually in there. None of those numbers for the operating costs are calculated in any sort of meaningful way that I've seen on a new building and what that could do to our future dues for ops.
yeah, right now, the ice barn, if I look at the brand new one, there are no numbers in there, up till 2035, it's all been moved
Yeah.
out.
That's right. Yeah, it has to be moved out.
And Rick?
So, I'd like to propose a remedy, a solution, a proposal. So if we adjust so I still think our collection rate is going to be above 95.
I mean, historically, that would be.
Say it's only 97%. We're going to we get just under 15,000 for each percentage towards roads and CERT for every 1% over 95. So say we get 2% instead of 2.9. That's 29,000 for each one of those. I would propose taking 50,000 off of trees and dividing that to 25 on each of those for roads and surf. On top of the 28, that puts it over 50,000 into reserves for both of those accounts. It's not gonna get us to 100% reserves, but it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Start.
Can I add just a couple of things? One was that you have an aging forest right now that's overgrown. Okay, the bomb cyclone just knocked down the weak trees. Okay, so what we're seeing now though, since the bomb cyclone, is aging trees that are unhealthy. And that's what's driving the expense now. We're seeing an average of 3 to 4 of them a month that are being identified now that aren't because of the bomb cyclone.
Yeah.
They're just because you have an aging, overgrown forest of very, very large trees. So it's not, there's gonna be a regular number of these big trees that are falling down on common area or that are a hazard to homes. And so that's what I'm seeing. And again, I don't mean to preach on what we did at Suncadia, but it was 500,000 a year up there for a similar sized community. And they weren't overgrown. The forests over here are much thicker than they are on the dry side. The other points I would raise would be about Barn 8 here. When I first saw those engineering calculations when I first got here, it's just deja vu for what happened in Florida with the condo collapses and what happened in California with the balcony collapses. And in both cases, it was loss of life and billions of dollars. And this building, right, it may stay up another 10 years, but it's been identified as having deficiencies. And if you don't act upon it and something does happen, God forbid, right? That is an intentional tort. And that means that your personal liability for the board members who don't act upon it. So I gotta tell you, and your D&O policy covers you for anything in which you follow the advice of experts, right? Whether it's your attorney or whether it's an engineer. If you deviate from that, you can certainly do that as long as it's not an intentional tort. And an intentional tort is considered, your D&O policy won't cover you for it. So God forbid this building would fall down when somebody's in here. But I think that you have enough evidence that you do need to put some money in this building if you're gonna keep it for another couple of years.
Michael, just, you had said, am I stepping on AJ? Go ahead, AJ, sorry.
Just curious, are you suggesting that every old building that isn't up to code is liable if it collapses and someone's inside because of a act of God?
Not at all, only that you have
That's what
had
you just
engineers
said.
who identified this building as having structural deficiencies. And if you choose not to act on it, then it's up to you to decide whether you want to take that risk.
But we're not required to do those upgrades by any code or government entity.
Nope.
We
not
simply
at
got an inspection that said this is the structural nature of the building.
Sure.
I would imagine apartment buildings in downtown Bellingham built out of brick do similar things, and I don't know that they're actively going out trying to do the same things.
Yeah, they probably haven't got an
And my
engineering
biggest
study.
problem is just that, like, while yes, and I'm an engineer, while yes, this geotechnical engineer, structural engineer sat here and said and recommended these things, they would be derelict in their duties if they saw something that didn't meet the current codes and didn't recommend to you to bring them up to current codes. And on top of that, while doing that, simultaneously, they can't provide us any guidance or firm anything on what they're actually giving us to this building for all that work and money. There is no, they can't even say we can guarantee you 30 additional seconds for everyone to get out of this building with these upgrades. I asked those questions when they sat here in the board meeting, and they can't do it. So they're providing us, they're actually providing us no benefit that we can tangibly prove, like, and there appears to be this drive for evidence, like we want to know exactly how much water the garden's using before we can make a decision on how to move forward with that, like, I don't know.
I'm not an engineer, AJ, so
It doesn't,
you
I
can
just,
decide to do nothing.
I just think the building is old and it is an old building and there are lots of old buildings
So
everywhere.
I have a different,
A lot of them are public buildings.
I have a different take on it a little bit. My take is, I was in that same meeting and I asked the engineer, would this building survive a 7.0 earthquake? And would you want to be in it? And I didn't get an answer.
He said no, probably not, but he also said it wouldn't if you did the repairs.
I was taking a breath, let me finish. And so what I usually when somebody like an expert doesn't give me an answer, my sense is they don't really know, but based on the look on his face and whatnot, it told me everything. It told me that he wouldn't want to be in here in a 7.0 earthquake.
No,
No.
no one wants to be in here in an earthquake.
Alright,
But there is a small window of odds of time and place where that's even a remote possibility.
Only have on
budget.
Yeah. We're all.
Guys,
It's on the budget though, it's millions of dollars that we're spending. Like Linda's saying, we need to.
I know, you can't just be yelling
budget.
out, like you're someone out the floor, now you're interrupting, you know what
And
I'm
he
saying?
stopped, and so I responded to him.
Wait till you're,
Yeah,
recognized.
good, now you follow the rules.
I'm done. I'm okay.
You are?
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
fine, thank you.
Anybody, do you have more questions?
I won't vote for the
Anybody
budget,
have-
I won't vote for the budget, I'm saying that no with Linda. I don't support a 14% increase to ops.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any comments about Rick's proposal?
It's good.
I like Rick's, makes sense, and it's a start, get something going. We need to bring up the funds.
And then on top of that, we'll have the extra 2% roughly.
If we get an extra 2
grab.
or 3%, we've got more funds. Makes sense.
Well, we don't have to make a decision tonight, this is just talking about it, but
The only problem I have with Rick's answer is you're only using existing funds and existing dues that we get over and above the 95%. You're not increasing those dues to be able to constantly provide future. You're just using something that hasn't been used.
That's only half of it.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It has to be an increase in the dues that the members pay, and we have to keep moving forward, or we will fall behind. And that's what we're doing, is falling behind by not making an effort.
And your UDR is falling behind with all the money that you're draining out of it for trees.
The UDR is not supposed to be just this ever-building account of money. I mean, in theory, you would have 100% collection rate and UDR wouldn't exist, like.
Well, in theory, you wouldn't use UDR
So-
to continually fund things that you're underfunded.
Let's just, if you need extra money on top of $100,000, do a 97% collection rate, and you can have whatever that is in there, and that's what it is.
And then what if it's a year where it's less than 97%?
When was the last time that happened, Joel?
2020. But
During the middle of a pandemic, and what did it drop to?
95% worked fine for you when you were the board president for 3
I'm
years.
just saying, I'm getting a solution to add more money to ops.
You live in a glass house also. So all these things that you're accusing the board of doing, you did.
I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything, Joel. Where did I accuse someone of doing something?
Well, you know what? Maybe you could have raised capital dues and you were
You
the
think
board.
this is an appropriate way to behave as one of our executive leadership and staff
You were
in
the
a board meeting?
You were the board president for 3 years. How much did you raise capital
Or
dues?
actually,
Okay, but for 3 years, how much did you raise the capital dues?
we didn't.
Why not? Why did you underfund capital reserve?
Why did you show a balanced budget that didn't need it?
Look, I can
While
only.
we were doing that, Joel, we sat there and did this stuff together while you're trying to paint me as the bad guy. This is hilarious, Joel.
No, it's hilarious. You
Like,
sit here and you.
Do you see how inappropriate this whole behavior is?
Okay.
You get upset at the board for not increasing capital dues when you yourself.
I'm saying I don't support a $200,000 increase to hazard trees. These are my opinions, Joel. You can not like them, but it's not really your place to verbalize that.
So you can make your opinion, you did, that's great, and he has the right to respond to that, and offer some guidance, that's what he's for. Does everyone need a break already, or I was gonna take a break in between our close?
Embarrassing.
This is all being recorded.
Do we have anything, well,
Yeah, real professional.
we're not done yet. So you guys wanna take a break now? Looks like we had to, so Spencer,
Not already.
Pause it.
we're gonna take a break, yeah, take a couple minute break, we can use the restroom, stretch. I will wait, but you go open. All right, coming back into open session at 9:42.
And it is September.
When did you go out? When did you take the break? Because I'm sorry, I haven't been up.
9:33.
9:30, thank you.
9:33. All right, we're continuing our discussion on the budget. And you were just talking, Linda, about when's our next meeting? What did you say it was?
September 4th,
Yeah, September 4th.
special board meeting voting to adopt the 2025 budget.
So that's Thursday, September
Yep.
24th. So if we're gonna make any changes, tonight is the night we recommended those changes.
Yep.
We've heard a couple. We'll have to talk about that. So one was take 100,000 out of hazardous trees. And the other was use our overage, our budget's based on a 95% collection rate. We don't typically collect 97 plus, so take that extra 2% and take that money and divide it between the two.
So that automatically happens.
Yeah, that
Well, but it doesn't satisfy the
Well,
requirements.
but then I also suggested taking 50 out of hazardous trees and dividing that between roads and so.
And would that satisfy Ms. Brackley?
Something has to be something.
So the 50K from trees, and then the 2%.
And I'm telling you, there's stuff in the ops budget.
I know, but as it's stated, so the budget's done by the managers. They come together, and like Joel already pointed out, if Mike's saying something that, yeah, the last 3 years we've got by with $5,700, just say, in repairs, but next year we know we're gonna need the roof, or we're gonna need this, and that's gonna double or triple that,
But
whatever.
if it needs a roof, it's gonna come, where's it gonna come out of? It ain't gonna come out of ops, it's gonna come out of capital.
Well, you
And what
know,
are we underfunded in? Capital.
you know what I'm saying though, right? I mean, so he has to account for these things, as all managers do. You know, so whatever whatever he thinks he needs, equipment, whatever it is, right? So,
I wasn't in that meeting, so I can't tell you that I had any part, you know, I know that's all up to the managers. It's just some of these amounts seem excessive. Especially when you can look at a closed 2024 where they didn't come close to spending any of that money.
all right. So the compromise we're having right now on the table would be the 50,000 out of hazardous trees.
And leave it, then make it 250,000 in the ops, and then divide 50,000 between roads and service. It's a tiny amount, but it's something. You can't tell people you're gonna do all this stuff and then not increase their dues.
What saith you?
Well, I think.
Go ahead, make my day.
Mr. President, we work in the direction of the board.
Yes, I know.
So-
I know, that's just it.
I want his,
Yes.
that's what he's here for, is to offer his
We
opinion,
will,
his
we'll
advice.
make it happen. Mike Brock's a big boy, but if he runs over budget in the middle of the year, he's gonna be coming and asking you for more money.
Okay, I'll be willing to sit down with him and say, no problem.
Next year, maybe we can get you
Well,
in
this
the room with Mike and Joel and
Oh,
I.
I'd love
We
to.
can have, no, I'm kidding.
So this wouldn't,
That's not where I wanna work,
this
Linda.
wouldn't affect Mike, right? They were taking 50K out of trees, right?
Yeah.
So it won't have anything to do with that, it just lowered our tree budget, which is, we're changing that from hazardous tree to actually forestry management, or what's the catchy name for it? But
Forest health.
Forest health, that allows the money to be spent for additional items that we see.
Or whatever, yeah, whatever we need.
Yeah.
Actually,
If you do something like,
Since we're taking money out of hazardous trees and forest health, then it reverts back to just hazardous trees.
That's his compromise.
how about just health?
Okay.
We'll call it the health account.
So that's what we're looking for, so we're gonna be looking for that change, because the next meeting we have to adopt this budget is gonna be on September 4th, that's Thursday, we're having a special meeting.
A week from today.
So, the break, we have a long-range
Go ahead.
planning meeting that same, so, what time is that meeting?
What time is the
7.
meeting?
It was 6:30.
Ours is at 6:30, no, I don't know.
I think it's just regular 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
we
Michael-
need to change it.
It's 7 o'clock,
Do I need to change it?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I guess we'll change it.
Just move it up, or
Move it a week or so.
Just earlier in the day even.
Well,
People work.
I can't do that.
How long will that budget meeting go? It's just a.
If we look at it, if the changes are, if the
well,
changes are made, it can be a really short meeting. It can be 15 minutes and we're out of here.
We've been talking about this for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
pass it out
good
now, so-
discussion, that's all good.
Pass it out so we can have a 15-minute meeting.
Exactly.
All right, so we all good with that? All right. All right, Joel, so you have direction there.
Okay, so tell me again.
50K out of
Trees.
hazardous trees. 25 into.
And then you're gonna
25 and surface roads.
Yeah, 25,
look
yeah.
at that. Something's better than nothing.
Are you sure?
Nothing is unacceptable.
Okay, let Joel
Hour and a
respond.
half to chase some pennies.
Go ahead, Joel.
Are you sure you don't
I
want,
don't know about that.
are you sure you don't
Don't
want?
tell me that as someone who
Okay.
didn't increase
All right.
reserves for years.
Let's, Joel, go ahead.
I'm talking to AJ.
Well, stop, please.
Okay, so if we're doing the 50,000, are you sure you don't want it just to go to SERF? Like, since that probably is the fund that's.
That's what's hurting the most, so if you wanna do that all to serve, that would work for me. Because
And then
roads is really far more stable than
It's
serve
covered,
is.
yeah.
Okay, is that it, 50,000 hazardous trees put into SERF?
Correct.
For increased dues.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna be changing the allocation a little, you know. to
Yep.
the-
Yep, that's it.
Right.
There you
And did you change the heading for hazardous trees to
Oh, no.
the forestry management?
I'm gonna change the heading to barely hazardous.
Alrighty then.
go.
All right, very good. So that'll conclude our budget discussion. We still have business to do here, so
Yes,
moving
we
on now,
do.
we have new business. Capital approval request for the clubhouse HVAC replacement on page 114. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting funding to replace the upper 20-ton HVAC unit located on the first floor of the clubhouse in room 100. In February, you approved the capital code for the design and permitting of it. The work was complete. Permitting is under final review. Of course, capital request is a change order request, adding the funding for construction. The original capital request is attached. The item that we're looking at here, the total construction estimate, $141,400. There's an additional $6,352 to repair a bearing shaft, which is actually necessary in order to make the air handling unit work. So the HVAC replacement, the 20-ton unit, is that big box that's out under the covered pergola out there across the driveway. If you go out there, one of them's running, and that's on the hot days, the other one is dead. And so the 20-ton unit that's gonna get replaced, the compressor part of it's out there, the air handling part is inside. Tyler and the contractors have already looked at all the ingress and egress, and they can get in there, they don't have to knock any walls down.
Thank goodness.
The shaft that we're referring to now is in the first room, right there, where the possible coffee shop might go. The little janitor closet area, you look up, and there's a motor there on a big duct of air, and that motor, the belts are off of it right now because the shaft is burned up in there. So the unit's so old, they can't buy the shaft. However, we found a machinist, a company that's gonna fabricate it, the Baron Heating. So they're gonna fabricate the shaft and put it in at the same time when the HVAC goes in. So that's what the total ask is, the $147,752. And so whether we go with the clubhouse or a coffee shop or anything in there, we definitely need to replace this. The one unit has been replaced recently and it's functioning fine. That's why on these hot days, it didn't drive it out of there. But you can tell that unit, when I was over there, was running all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read the motion here. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what tenant or whose tenant is in there, it needs to be handled, it's for the whole building.
Yes,
so
it is.
It's irrelevant.
So the motion is move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve a change order allocation of up to $147,752 from SURF to SURF Capital Code 9724.06, to fund construction and temporary repairs for replacement of the clubhouse HVAC 20-ton unit.
Second.
Okay, questions? Thank you, Linda. All right, hearing none, all in favor? That's unanimous.
Do we know yet when this
That
work?
question time's over.
No, my the reason I'm asking is it says that there's a temporary repair, and I remember reading about this from one of the Barron invoices I paid, is underway to maintain minimal heating. So my question is do we know when this work's gonna be able to be done? I'm sure if the unit part of it can be handled right away, but then there's the bearing that's gonna be manufactured.
Well, we actually told them to start on the bearing, because we had to fix that.
Yeah.
I would take that out of my general manager's fund if I
No,
needed
not
to. That
necessarily.
was the one with the lead time. But we'll get a firm date as soon as we get them the contract here.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's because when we're talking heating, I'm going, are we going into fall here and we're not gonna have heating in that building? Because golf's there.
You do have
Yeah,
heat,
minimal,
but,
yeah, I know. Okay, that works.
Okay, very good. Moving on to 7B is the contract approval request for the turf care building remodel. That'd be page 135.
Did we vote on this motion or did I interrupt this and nobody voted?
Nobody voted, it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Michael?
Turf care, it starts on page 135. Purpose of the request is to get board approval to award the construction contract for the turf building remodel. You may recall on May 22nd, you approved the construction funding for the turf care. We went ahead and took it out to bid. Despite reaching out to 6 qualified contractors, only Cool Runnings submitted a bid. Again, Cool Runnings is the one who did the work, beautiful job on the Area Z building. So the bids reflect the current regional contractor availability and supports moving forward with the qualified bid received by Cool Runnings. They submitted a responsive bid on August 7th with a unit price of $98,137.60. So the bid package then comes through the approved capital funding for May 27th was $116,785. The construction quote from Cool Runnings is $98,137. Tyler, Mike Brock, and I and Greg put 10% contingency. Architect support, we don't know we're gonna need it all, but $2,340, and then PMW's estimate of 40 hours is $5,400. So Tyler again says he will not use all 40 hours, but this is the total number. So that comes in at $115,691.36, which is about $1,100 under the budget.
And the finance committee supports recommending
What says the finance committee? They're all for it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me read the motion and then we'll go into questions and all that.
That
okay?
works, I just got one.
All right, so the motion, move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve awarding the turf care building remodel contract to Cool Runnings Construction in the amount of $98,137.60 and authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with the total project budget not to exceed $115,691.36, funded from SURF Capital Code 9724.013.
Second.
Thank you, Linda. And Linda, you had a question.
So we've got P&W within construction management. I thought when we initially put this package out there was a note in there that Greg was gonna handle this.
That was the asphalt work that we're having done today. Now Greg will be on site for this, but Greg's not qualified to.
Okay, I'll look it up again, because I swear we talked about that and it said that that once the contract it would be done, that he would be the one that would be handling that, but I'll look it up again and get back to you.
Yeah, no, you're right, there was discussion along those lines, Linda, that he would be there to handle things like, are they on site on these certain days, but he's not qualified to be able to go in there and say, you're framing this wall correctly, or has the electrical been signed off here? That's what, we need the expertise of Tyler.
Okay, cause I thought if he's doing that, does Tyler need to, be spending so much time doing stuff? That's all.
Yeah, it's a good question, I remember it coming up. Greg will be on site there every day, and, he can tell us, yeah, they showed up today, and yes, they're working, and, but he's not qualified to be able to look in there and act as an inspector.
Any additional questions? All right, so a vote, all in favor of awarding a $98,137.60 contract for the general manager to execute for SVCA standard construction contract with a total project budget not to exceed $115,691.36. All in favor? That is approved. That's unanimous, yes, ma'am. Okay. All right, 7C, we have a long-range planning committee appointment.
Yes, sir.
Ray?
Bring to you longtime resident in Sudden Valley, Jeff Milner, Mildner.
First name Jeff?
Jeff.
Milsner.
L-I-L-D-N-E-R?
Mildner.
L-D-N-E-R.
Milner.
Got it.
Milner.
I think he spoke at the meeting last night.
Yes, he was the one that spoke at the first town meeting that flipped everything around. He was very anxious to be on the committee.
Cool.
We're looking forward, he was an architect at one time.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'd be a good add. We're looking forward to having him.
All in favor?
Fill our committee.
All in favor of appointing Jeff Milner to the Long Range Planning Committee? That's unanimous. Thank you, Ray. And you said he was vetted, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we are now going to have to move into executive session at 9:59 PM.